I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me, and I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. The seven nation army couldn't hold me back. They gonna rip it all. Taking their time up behind my back. I walk alone, I walk alone. Into the sun at night because I can't forget. Thinking all through my mind behind the single man.
I'm in the house. Here it comes. Extra, extra, get all about it. The best burgers in town from all around. From around the world, come and get it. The line goes around like a merry-go-round.
そんなんじゃダメもうそんなんじゃほら心は進化するよもっともっと How many shrimps do you have to eat before you make your skin turn pink? Eat too much and you'll get sick. Shrimps are pretty rich.
When worlds collide, you'll laugh so hard you'll swear you died. When worlds collide, hold my hand, I'll be your guide. When worlds collide, buckle up for the sweetest ride and prepare to have your mind blown wide. When worlds collide, when
because I'm counting no A's. Nah, I couldn't be there. Nah, you shouldn't be scared. I'm good at repairs and I'm
one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment. Would you capture it or just let it slip?
Slide again.
purifiers, you know, let them see that you're good. This song has been my mortal enemy for about 4 years now.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me, and I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone.
Seven nation army couldn't hold me back. They couldn't rip it all. Taking their time up behind my back.
I walk alone, I walk alone.
Into the supermarket because I can't forget. Thinking was through my mind behind the second bed.
I'm in the house. Here it comes. Extra, extra. Read all about it. The best burgers in town from all around. People from around the world come and get it. The line goes around like a merry-go-round.
そんなんじゃダメもうそんなんじゃほら心は進化するよもっともっと How many shrimps do you have to eat before you make your skin turn black? Eat too much and you'll get sick. Shrimps are pretty rich.
When worlds collide, you'll laugh so hard, you'll swear you died. When worlds collide, hold my hand, I'll be your guide. When worlds collide, buckle up for the sweetest ride and prepare to have your mind blown wide. When worlds collide, when
Finally, someone let me out of my cage. Now, time for me is nothing cause I'm counting no A's. Nah, I couldn't be there. Now you shouldn't be scared. I'm good at repairs and I'm
shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment. Would you capture it or just let it slip?
You're my wonder.
a fire with them. You know, let them see that you're worth. This song has been my mortal enemy for about 4 years now.
Okie dokie. That's enough of that music stuff. Just enough of it. So, sorry everybody for all the technical difficulties. The scheduled event for some reason didn't want to launch when I had it going out. But today's stream isn't like our normal goofy stream of just, you know, smack talk, trolling, and triggering folks. But, so yeah, today is supposed to be about chronic pain, and there's a lot of talk about chronic pain and how people deal with it, the quote-unquote opioid epidemic, why people, you know, what's turning people into junkies, who are the actual junkies, and I used to have to deal with, I still deal with some pain issues, but I've managed to find other things on my own that work for me for right now. But, you know, there's others that have way more complicated, serious diagnosis that they can't just take a couple herbs or do some exercises and make it better. And I've put out there, I invited a few doctors that are in some of the DMs and groups I belong to on Twitter, because there's quite a few doctors who are like, you know, no, they're handling this pain management thing all wrong, just completely wrong. And so I wanted, you know, a few experts to come in and, you know, let us know their opinion on it. And I'm waiting for two guests. One, Liz Shea and Laura. I'm not sure exactly how to invite her on the Hangouts. Normally what we do is we just post links for Hangouts and people join them, but so I'm waiting to hear from these ladies. To chronic pain writer, it's something that you have chronically, regularly. You can't relieve it. It's there. It's some people suffer from fibromyalgia, other people migraines. There's bladder infections that actually cause people to be in pain so much that they just want to die. Just chronic pain is constant pain that needs to be attended to, and not just like, oh, well, I got a little bit of a headache today, or oh, well, my muscles are chronic. So let me see. Okay, let's see here. So, all right, so I'm not used to being here alone. And I sent a DM to Irate Prostate because he does deal with chronic pain issues. He's got quite a few medical diagnoses, and he used to work in the psychiatric field. So he would be able to give an expert opinion. So let's see here. I know what I'll do. While I'm waiting for people, I will find a picture of a puppy or a kitty. That's what I can do. No, not Hello Kitty. No, not. I type in kitty and it gives me Hello Kitty. Let's see. So I am waiting to see if I get a knock on my Hangouts door. There we go. Let's throw this up here on the screen. All the crazy different little cutie kids. So I'm gonna check my DMs. Oh, okay. Wants her to click and get into my contacts. Okay. I could add you via Google Plus, but I see I'm one of those that are Google Plus retarded. I don't really use Google Plus, but I guess a lot of other people do and use it successfully. So let me see here. All right, that silly app can shut down. So let's see. I can go into my Google. Hey, Laura. Can we see a blue whale? Yes, John. We can see blue whales. Actually, I wonder if I could get away with that, or if I'll get YouTube struck. Let's see. Let's see what happens when you hit All Hail Blue Whale in Google. Oh, there we go. There's some images for the whale gang. There we go. Alright, so. Alright, so while y'all can discuss the whale over here in the chat and maybe enlighten some of our newer folks that don't know about what Gulf Sea is. And, alright, let's see. Oh, dead air. That's always good for people. Okay. So, this is why I have a co-host. That's what I should do. I should reach out to my waifu hunter. If he's available. Okay. So I've got the message out there. Hey, Fire. Let's see, where are my bodies at over here? Over in the ginger box. Do I have bodies alive in the ginger box? Let's see. Alright, because honestly, yeah, the reason I wanted to do the chronic pain thing is because we do have a lot of people that, that do suffer from pain issues and pain management. There we go. That's why we weren't having it, as I didn't have the display capture. So, but yeah, there's quite a few people in many different communities on Twitter, on YouTube, everywhere that have to deal with this on a regular basis. So, let's see here. God, I suck at this. Okay. Well, scrap it. You know what? I'm going to open my Discord. And I'm going to go into the ginger box over here. Okay. People put a lot of different things in my thing. Ninja Cave, there I am. Alright, so I'm going to go hide in the Ninja Cave over here on Discord. So anybody that wants to join me in on the call. Because I do have quite a few different stories and articles and things to go over for the chronic pain management and what people go through. So... And apparently, if you're in an ambulance in La Crosse, Wisconsin, fear not, because aromatherapy will treat your pain, nausea, and anxiety. No need for drugs, duh. You just can sniff some stuff. Oh, irate prostate sneaking on the laptop, huh? Andrea's in. Okay, let's see. But I don't hear her. There's Mom. Hello. Why isn't the audio working? Hello? Mom, I can see you're in here, but you probably have to hit the microphone button. So, I've got some, I see a face in my Hangouts. It could be. Let's see. Oh my goodness. This is just silly. Super silly. Why isn't the audio coming through? Okay, well, so while we're doing that, let's go over some of these articles that are like, these are some Twitters. This guy, Josh Bloom, Director of Chemical and Pharmaceutical Sciences and Juvenile Humor at the American Council on Sciences and Health. He's the one who posted the tweet. Let's see. Okay, we got him. Yeah, he's talking. He's a good one to follow to find out about what's going on in the pain community and what they're actually trying to pull. Hello, Laura Polk. I see you in the chat. Let's see. Okay. Still only see Liz in the Google Hangouts, but I can't hear her. Okay. So this way you guys aren't hearing dead air. I'm going to switch over to the music for just another minute and try to get this all sorted out. It's crazy, but we've got a lot of good information and actually good things here, but it's got so many people involved and I don't want to cover things if the people aren't here for me to cover with them. So give me a minute.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me and I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone.
Like a merry-go-round.
そんなんじゃダメもうそんなんじゃほら心は進化するよもっともっと How many shrimps do you have to eat before you make your skin turn pink? Eat too much and you'll get sick. Shrimps are pretty rich.
When worlds collide, you'll laugh so hard, you'll swear you died. When worlds collide, hold my hand, I'll be your guide. When worlds collide, buckle up for the sweetest ride and prepare to have your mind blown wide. When worlds collide, when
because I'm counting no A's. Nah, I couldn't be there. Nah, you shouldn't be scared. I'm good at repairs and I'm
If you had one shot opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment. Would you capture it or just let it slip?
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to slide again? Do you ever feel so paper thin, like a house of cards, windows are caving in? Do you ever feel already very deep, 6 feet on the street, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you? There's a spark in you. Because maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall. Light, light, let it shine so bright, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're a
All right, guess what? Guess what, video audience? We figured out the Hangouts. So I would like to introduce two ladies here that have been really instrumental in working with like chronic pain patients management and what they get and how they, basically support groups and putting out information. The first person I'd like to introduce is Liz. You can introduce yourself. Yeah, so this is my mother-in-law. So, but I've actually, it's children hanging out. Probably my two Tweedles. So, all right, so. Yeah, so you guys can't see the folks I have in the call. They have their video on, but I'm not OBS smart enough to be able to help show you folks these wonderful people. But all right, and then we have Miss Laura joining us. She and I've never actually talked, like, other than in chats together, but she's full of good information. So go ahead, Laura, introduce yourself to the fine folks. Oh, well, shoot fire. Well, apparently they can't hear you guys. I don't know. I'm going to have my husband come over here and sit at this and figure out what he can do real quick, because I can hear you and my microphone capture's working. So hold on. Jesus. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it's so far it's just you and me and Red, who I
yeah,
guess
well,
nobody could hear.
All right,
it's
ladies.
been a
So
good
Yeah.
dry
all
run.
can hear now. we
Oh,
Merc
yeah,
the Magic
we're
has
making
fixed.
progress.
Thank you, Mercolium.
All right, there we go. So,
What kind of your son Mercolium?
Mercola, it's the name he created a long time ago for AmpGuard. But,
Yeah.
so, all right, ladies, go ahead and reintroduce yourselves. So
You
go
first.
ahead, Liz.
Okay. Hi. This is Liz, and I'm the Oma. Oma means grandmother in German. But I am a chronic pain patient, and I'm very much involved in Twitter and the advocacy groups, trying to improve things for our lot in life.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was
You
just saying
done?
awesome. I appreciate you being here. So, all right, go ahead, Laura. Let's introduce you.
I'm Laura. I'm a chronic pain patient. I've had back problems for 25 years now, and I'm disabled. And I'm currently not on any medications. I take kratom, and it helps some. I'm hoping to get back into pain management, but I'm not too hopeful with what all I'm learning on Twitter. So, but I just want to get more involved, and help who I can help.
You can only do what you can do, and here days it doesn't seem like they want anybody to do anything. But there are some
Right.
people out there that are helping. There are doctors that are involved, and lobbyists and lawmakers and people that are actually willing to listen. And that's the important part is getting someone to listen and hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something today. I learned that Laura has a Texas accent.
Yeah, I do. I've lived
You
here
sure
my
you
whole
do.
life. Yeah, I'm a native Texan, so
I was
You're
born in Texas
through
too.
and through. You're a Tex.
yeah, I am.
Anyway,
I don't deny it.
what start talking about? What subject?
All right. Well, since we didn't, I'm actually kind of glad that the doctors and the professionals didn't show up because how unprofessional was the start of the stream. Oh my goodness. But, so
I give it an A
Well,
plus
we
on
learned.
professional.
We learned.
So I figured today we could cover your individual stories of what you've been through, successes each of you have come across, what you're currently doing, what you see in the pain community, anything that you wanted to bring up. I did collect some of the stories that were shared in the DMs on Twitter and some of the links that were shared out of articles of interest, news. The one that somebody put up about tips on how to write an advocacy letter, for anything you're trying to get somebody's attention for. So, so what would you ladies like to discuss today? And then I'll let you know, because I don't know if you guys can have the chat open as well or not, but I'll let you know when the chat has questions, what they're, discussing or what they want to ask you, or little tidbits they put in here and there. So, who would like to
Laura,
start
why
us off?
don't you start out and tell us what your back problem is and what they've done to you and where you're
Okay.
at, where you've been and where you're at with pain meds.
Okay. Well, I was a nurse, LVN, when I started working in the emergency room at Bentop Hospital, and I started having back pain. And I had MRI done, and I had 3 herniated discs, and so I did a little conservative treatment, and then finally I did surgery. And like 5 weeks after the surgery, I returned to work, and I was doing good. And then 3 weeks after I returned to work, I was rear-ended by someone going about 55 miles an hour. And so I was out of work for a couple of months, and then I started struggling with pain. And so anyway, I progressively got worse with the pain. I started seeing pain management, and got medications and got steroids. And but what happened was I was scheduled for an elective fusion because I had my vertebra had slipped forward, and so I needed a fusion. So I was doing all the workup for the fusion and donating my blood and got fitted for the brace. But then I developed a drop foot on my right foot, and I couldn't move my right foot, and so my surgery got moved up urgently, and so I had to have an emergency decompression with the fusion, and then I was fused with coral, and I had to wear this heavy brace and this bone growth stimulator, and had to do a lot of walking. I was on a lot of pain medications while I was recuperating. And I'd say maybe 6, 7 months after the fusion, I got off all the pain medicines and I was doing great. And while I was recuperating from the surgery, I was going to school to become an RN. So I completed my degree requirements for my RN, and I had to have neck surgery and shoulder surgery. But I got my RN and I started working at Bentop. But then I started hurting more. So I went back to pain management and got put back on the pain meds. But then people were having issues with me practicing nursing while I was on pain medicine. And I came to a crossroads in my life. So I finally gave up my nursing career and chose, I realized how severe my problem was. And so I gave up nursing and I became disabled. But anyway, I mean, I've seen pain management from 98 and through 2012. And then my doctor sold his practice. And so I started going to the new doctor that he referred me to. And they started trying to cut my medications, trying to validate. They ordered all new stuff. They wanted to do more epidurals. They wanted to do more physical therapy. But they started drug testing. And that's where I encountered the problem, because I had been intermittently using marijuana to help me with the muscle spasms and with my pain. And I came back positive for marijuana. And so that raised a red flag. And subsequently, I got fired from like 3 different pain management doctors for positive marijuana. If I had to do it all over again, I would have eliminated the marijuana. If I would have known it was going to cost me my quality of life, I never, I wouldn't have done it, because I'm not addicted to marijuana. It's just it's an adjunct to, my whole regimen. So anyway, but I was finally terminated from pain management back in December of 2015 because I was in the process of moving a couple of years ago, and so my activity levels increased, and so I ran out of medication early. I was on 3 whopping Norco 10s a day, and so anyway, I went into the doctor and did a urine drug screen, and it came back negative for opiates. And so they sent it off for like $1,600 worth of confirmation tests. And when they got those back, it showed negative for opiates, but it showed 20 nanograms of THC in my system. And so I was fired from pain management. And so basically I dropped out of life. I quit going to the doctor. I didn't look for another pain management doctor. I quit going to my regular doctor, and just progressively got more and more immobile, more and more deconditioned, laying around in bed, watching TV, just staying distracted. That's all I could do. So that's been going on since December of 15. And about 3.5 months ago, I discovered Kratom. And so it's helped me considerably with my pain. I still have pain. And when I'm upright, like if I get out of bed and I go walking, I can walk about a block or so, and then the pain starts. Anytime I'm upright, I hurt. If I walk on the hard floors at the grocery store, I hurt. If I'm upright to wash dishes or wash clothes or to prepare food or, just your normal activities of daily living, that's what aggravates my pain. And so I just basically dropped out. And but the Kratom has helped me just start becoming more active. And so that's it in a nutshell. I've been on opiates for so long, and before I've had 4 back surgeries. So I kind of condensed everything because, I don't want to get on my pain soapbox and all about my back surgeries because I mean I'll go off on a tangent and people get lost in the message. But I've had to have 4 surgeries. I've had countless epidural steroid injections. I've had countless lumbar facet joint blocks, lumbar facet ablations, bilateral sacroiliac joint blocks. I was diagnosed with myofascial pain syndrome, and used to have to get a lot of trigger point injections. But those are resolved since I had my neck fusion. But my back is my major malfunction. But back in 2005, my pain got severe, and they did another MRI, and I think they did a electronic magnetic myelogram, something like that. I can't remember the name of the test, but it showed that I had arachnoiditis, and so I went in for my 4th surgery. But I mean, I didn't get any follow-up care about what to do about the arachnoiditis. See, I was under the impression that, oh, I had arachnoiditis and I had surgery for it, and then it was gone.
What's arachnoiditis?
It's well, with me, it was from adhesions. It was from scar tissue, and I had so much scar tissue in there that it kind of clumped all my nerve roots together. And adhesive arachnoiditis is like a progressive disease that can affect your nerve roots. I mean, I just found out about the adhesive arachnoiditis on Dr. Tennett's webpage like yesterday. And I mean, he's got all these supplements you can take and exercises and wearing braces. And it's like, it opened up a whole new world to me. And I'm just kind of disappointed that I didn't find this years ago, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm trying to make progress. So I'm so grateful for Twitter, and I'm so grateful for these pain chat rooms that I'm in so that I can learn more about my condition.
And that's the one thing I really want people to get from this is that just because people are in pain, it's not because they want drugs or they want to get high or anything like that. It's they're looking for relief. They're looking for the relief of their body. So there are several people that I've ended up committing suicide because their pain was too high that they couldn't do anything about it. And we started this quote-unquote opioid epidemic back when doctors were just like, oh, you got a toothache? Here's like 45 oxycodone, just for any little thing. And people could have done with some exercises or like figure out what's going on with, their actual diagnosis, but the doctors weren't giving the information. And now we're playing catch up, and people have spent decades in pain when they could have been moving on with their life. You lost your nursing career for it.
Yeah, I gave up nursing. I love nursing. I'm still there mentally, but physically, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, so that's what seems to be put out in the media, over the last few years, is that no, it's just people want the opiates, people want the drugs, give them their drugs, and they'll just end up killing themselves and spreading it to people that shouldn't have it, and just like all these negative connotations about pain and pain management. And when people see the term chronic pain patients, they're like, oh, they just want drugs. No, they want answers. They want solutions. What can make me better? And like you're talking about the kratom, I discovered kratom about 6 months ago or so as well. And it was because they legalized marijuana here in Washington State. And I've had several surgeries with my shoulders and had 2 traumatic brain injuries. And it's like, I can't, if I take the normal amount of opiates that they give you after surgeries, I get up and try to clean my house. And I end up hurting myself more. I was like, I can't keep taking opiates. It's great for breakthrough here and then when you need it. But if you're on a regular regimen like that, I was looking for something else, something different. And I went to this marijuana store, and they told me, well, and then we were also talking about getting someone off of a chronic pain regimen because somebody had been taking it for years, and they didn't want to take the opiates anymore. But if they go cold turkey, then what else is there for them? And so when discussing this, they're like, well, have you ever heard of kratom? I was like, no. And they're like, well, recommend this person to go here. And it actually ended up helping me. And we discovered a local supplier that, sold little bags of it. And it was really cost effective. And they had so many different varieties. And I told the girl at the counter, what I was looking for. And they have kratom that can actually get people off of opiates to make them healthier and, not dependent on the medications that they don't really want to take. And it can also, like, help prolong the effects of the opiates they have to take. And right now we're getting a lot of bad press for kratom. I didn't think it was possible to get high on kratom because I've seen some get really negative about it, like, oh, people are getting addicted to kratom now instead of actual
I wonder
medications.
if kratom is similar to opiates, and if you
It is.
actually have physical pain, you don't get high off of it. But if
It's
you don't have physical pain, you get a buzz off of it. Because I don't get a buzz off of it at all. Not at all.
Well, see, and this is also the different things. The myth with kratom, like with anything else that comes out, people will overindulge in it and find ways to hallucinate on it and do different crazy things. I mean, people are gonna find a way to
Injecting.
get high.
Can hear it now.
They're gonna find a way to get high. But here later on, I want to cover because I have actually discovered, talking to my pharmacist. He's like the old school pharmacist where they're proactive in your healthcare. Will actually call your doctor and say, hey, look, I think this is what's going on with them. They have a family history of this, different things like that. But I found out what kratom does, what it triggers in the brain, and it's an opiate just like Imodium is an opiate. But Imodium doesn't trigger the brain to uh, an actual opioid oxycodone or anything like that. It triggers in the bowels and keeps you from having diarrhea and causes you to solidify up just like an opiate would. And so it's like you get some of the benefits of it without some of the negative effects of it. So, but before we go all into that, I wanted to talk to Liz and see what she wanted to share with her story because there seems to be like a common theme with what happens to folks. And Liz has a really good
Yeah,
story
I'm
about what
probably
started hers.
I'm probably one of the more common stories, not very um, dramatic. Just I, with age, because I'm almost 70, and with time, the lower back is. If you're lucky if you get to be my age without some lower back problems, regardless what you do, it's just kind of one of those parts that wears out fairly fast. And before ergonomics came along, people didn't sit well in chairs and they wouldn't lift the right way. And, there was a lot of problems. Anyway, mine came along just with time. And the last 10 years, I've really gotten into a painful situation with collapsed, degenerated discs. They just sort of sit on top of each other, and it's changed my posture, and it's definitely changed my pain level. And um, I'm still on good pain meds, uh, not really enough to make it go away. They're lowering me, you know, really, really slowly. So anyway, not enough for it to go away, but definitely an improvement. Because boy, when I run out or I leave the house without a pill or something, I'm really sorry. It is absolutely debilitating. But like I said, I was fortunate that mine did come with age, and I, unlike Laura, who at a pretty young age started with some serious stuff, and I got to I got 50 50 something good years, so I can't complain. But I'll take kratom. If you take kratom, it competes with the opioid receptors, with the drug receptors, and it's kind of like you know overfilling a gas tank. You can only take so much in that receptor in that tank before it goes to waste. So I take it in the morning, trying to not take a pill until afternoon, and it worked pretty well. So I'm really surprised that it it kind of takes the place. But uh, I had been buying kratom on like eBay and not knowing what I was going to get. You just take their word for it that whatever they've got will be good. And then I got a little bit more sophisticated got on Twitter and began the education process. And there's a lot to learn about kratom, about the different strains, the different varieties of the plant. And I'm trying to learn what works best for me, if it's a red or a green or a red vein or a white vein. I'm going to find what works for me because I'll be without um, barely in, I don't know how long, but hopefully not soon. And by then, I'm also hoping that I'll have some regenerative surgeries. We could talk about them, but they actually have with stem cells and um, red blood cell injection things that can help you have younger parts. You basically grow new parts, and I'm looking into that. And like I said, that could be a whole, because I'll bet you there's a lot of people who
Oh
would be,
yeah.
interested in that. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm in the twilight of my years, and kind of spend my days laying around because it's where I'm comfortable. You know.
Yeah, I didn't really even realize that there was a opioid crisis those couple of years while all these reported people were saying that their doctors were cutting their dose and they were taking them off. I didn't even realize that was going on because I had become so isolated because of my pain. I just resorted to my bed and I lay around. I mean, I had a really close neighbor and I'd go hang out with him and he'd bring me to the grocery because I don't have a car. And so it makes it difficult. So, I mean, he would have cart me around and bring me to the store and I'd go hang out with him and cook and we'd watch TV together. But I wasn't involved on Twitter. And so I didn't even know that there was an opioid crisis going on. But I mean, I was doing without my pain medicine, doing the best I could. And he passed away back in March. And so, I was staying at his place, and I gathered some of his things and moved out, and so now I'm looking for another place. But now that he's gone, I have more time to pursue other things, and so I'm so glad that I got on Twitter. I was on it back in, I think I joined it back in August of last year. And it was whenever the World Series was going on. I think I sent it, my first tweet was trying to get some World Series tickets, but for the longest time, I just lurked on Twitter because I really don't understand how to tweet properly and how to quote someone in a tweet. I'm slowly learning, but it's frustrating, but I'm not going to give up because I've never given up. And so, come hell or high water, I'm going to learn how to tweet effectively.
Right. So I mean, yeah. And see, I'm
And we've
lucky.
become kind of
Go ahead,
we
Mom.
become an extended family on
Exactly.
Twitter.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
grows and it changes. We have people that come and go, and we have, it's basically a chat direct message.
Yeah.
And I
And it,
think we have uh, 48 and about maybe 12, whatever, um, are pretty
yes,
active, and we kind
it's
of
cheaper
check
than
on each
therapy
other.
too.
And
It's cheaper than
yeah, and
therapy.
we learn something and we get excited. And did you know this? Da, 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 did you read that?
Uh,
Yeah, it's a really good place
It's
to
really
get.
beneficial too.
Yeah, and you don't have to be active in the groups either. What I've noticed is because I'm in quite a few of the groups, and when I have information or questions or anything like that, I'll post in there, and it's actually quite a welcoming little group, and I really do like being in there. You get lots of good information about what's going on, and when I first told someone I was involved in a pain management group, they're like, "Oh, you guys basically getting together to scheme on how you're going to get more drugs?" It's like that is not what this is. That's not it. Like I said,
oh, that's funny.
we've got advocates, we've got doctors, we've got pain sufferers, we've got people that are on medicine, but most of them are off of medication, and they're all basically trying to
I
research and
think
figure out how to make people's lives better.
I really wish that we had more veterans in our group. Um, because I mean that Robert D. Rose, I mean, my heart breaks for him, but I know he's not going to give up, and he's going to get some answers that he's been trying for so long to get. You know, I just know that it's going to happen for him, and that the VA is going to change, but it's just taken so long. You know,
It's hard to fight City Hall.
Well, the
I,
You know,
story.
the
I'm
government.
I'm really looking forward to when the VA will allow veterans to seek care outside of the VA, because the VA is broken. I mean, I listened to that home HHS hearing, and I mean, I really got discouraged when I heard Gottlieb talk about regulations, regulations, regulations. Like, no, just give them their medicine. But I mean, I don't know what their problem is. I really don't. It's really, really sad.
Yeah. What I wish I had done is put tabs on some of the stories that were shared in these groups that people have publicly shared. There was the one about the doctor who had to basically watch his sister suffer and die, and because the doctor, he couldn't risk his medical license and lose
Well,
lose it
I
and
tried,
prescribe for her, but she ended up committing suicide. She had a bladder, something to do with her bladder, and she was a nurse like you, and she had gone for years just taking a little bit of pain meds here and there, and then they cut her off, and she wasn't able to live, do anything, and she ended up killing herself. And it's everybody's being affected.
yeah,
So
well,
it's
it makes
just,
me not feel so alone,
yeah,
you know, realizing that other people are going through. I didn't go through the bad uh, tapering and all that. You see, the problem I got into when I had my good pain management doctor, I was upfront with him because I found out about some clinical trials where they were doing studies on pain opiates that didn't cause constipation. And I told him I wanted to be in this clinical trial because one, I was trying to help the drug industry coming up with meds that would counteract the constipation because that was like a chronic problem that I had. And he was okay with it. I said, look, I won't break my pain contract with you. I want to let you know I'm going to be in this study. And when the study's over, I want to be able to come back to you and get back on my medication like I have it now. And he gave me his blessing. And so I got in that study. And the medicine was very effective. I mean, I'd go in and I had this little diary, and I mean, I'd take the medication that they gave it. It was a combination of oxycodone and naloxone. And I mean, I was pooping every single day like clockwork. I mean, but every time you pooped, you had to enter the consistency and the amount. I mean, it was kind of morbid, you know, documenting all your BMs. But I mean, every time I'd go in to turn in my data on my electronic diary or to pick up more medication, I'd get $75. So I was helping them come out with drugs to counteract the constipation issue with opiates. And I was making supplemental income. And my doctor was okay with it. But then I got word that my doctor was selling his practice. And that's where the problem came in. Because when I went to the new doctor, it's like they're saying, well, how do we know that you weren't getting the placebo? And I said, because you're guaranteed to get the medication. They don't have, it's not one of those double blind studies where you get placebo. I'm actually getting the medication. But I mean, they don't share data with your private doctor because it was a government sponsored study. And so, I mean, but it brought attention to me because I had broken my pain contract. And then that just cascaded into then I'm looking back now, and that was like in 2013, early 2013. And that seems like that's when all this opioid hysteria started, with
yeah,
them cutting your dose and trying alternative treatments. And I mean, they tried to put me on this Suboxone at the new doctor. It's like, why? You know? And so, but anyway, so when they started cutting my meds, I started using marijuana, you know, and then it caught up with me. And
and see, that's the
got
terrible
the,
thing is like when people are looking for alternatives to not take the opioids, and even in the states where it's legal, the doctors will frown on it. Like here in Washington State, they started years ago doing this database that if you went to the emergency room with like a major issue or something, then you got put in a database and they would flag you and talk to you individually. And there was lots of people that didn't have any kind of health insurance at all. And so like their only option was to go to the emergency room and seek help, you know. And so a lot of people got labeled because of lack of good health care. And like with my problems, because I've suffered through migraines ever since I was hit by that semi truck. And they were only doing like 35 miles an hour, but I was standing still. And so it's like ever since that, it's like my migraines like kicked into high gear. And that was in 2012. And the medication I found that worked pretty well was tramadol. And at that time it was non-opioid. And so I was like, okay, this is great. It helps with pain, but if you take too much of it, it makes you sweat like a whore in church. You know, and then they reclassified that as an opioid, and I'm like, okay. And I had a regular doctor that she was, because we did massage therapy and everything years later, and I had this young doctor who was really active, really like happy to help, and she, sorry, I'm reading the chat too at the same time. My brain can't multifunction right now, but anyway, so she was willing to help me. And she was working with everything, getting me referred to different physical therapies, different treatments and stuff. And then she had to move further away. She's still in Washington, but driving 3 hours once a month for a doctor's appointment was just insane. And just, you know, I'd be willing to do it. But at one point I was like, dude, I'm willing to do it. Just whatever to basically keep going on with what I've got going on. But I just said, screw it, and started looking for alternatives. And the alternatives is where they'll get you. And what was it, about a year, about 6 months ago or so, I had to go to the emergency room. And I can't remember if it was for migraines or if it was when the animal stepped on my foot. But either way, I told them, I was just like, well, I just want to make sure, you know, things are going okay. And like I didn't pinch a nerve or something. And the doctor there, I told him, I was like, normally I take kratom because it helps me. The kratom helps with anxiety and pain management. And I, just like with any other kind of medication, I would take it as needed. And in the emergency room, they started getting all hissy fit about it. It's like, oh, don't take that kratom stuff. That's horrible. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what's wrong?
Look at you like you're a cyclops.
They told me, they're like, oh, well, it's basically an opiate. Like, what do you mean it's basically an opiate? Is it or isn't it? And they couldn't tell me because they didn't have the research or anything done on it. I was like, what do you mean it's an opiate? It comes from a leaf like a coffee or tea plant type plant. And it's natural. And it's like, I've never had like the withdrawals from it or like the major problems you have, like constipation or anything like that with opiates. And then I started finding out from my pharmacist, he was the one that told me that it is, like Liz said, it triggers the opioid receptors, but in a different way. It doesn't do the same kind, like if you were to take like a Vicodin or something like that, or OxyContin or fentanyl or anything like that. It actually like helps with the site of pain without the adverse effects. Like I was saying, Imodium is technically an opiate, but people can't take it and get high. It doesn't help with pain. All it helps is with the bowel area as a side effect. So even my pharmacist, who's normally like really, he's really anti-opiate if you don't have to do it kind of thing. But he's always trying to help us find alternatives and different things. He's like, yeah, well, let me do some research on the kratom. And when he got back to me, he was like, yeah, if you need to, take the kratom, but watch it. He even told me, he's like, don't take too much of the stuff. I was like, well, I only take a couple capsules here and there when I need it. The different strains, like yellow and green for anxiety. And there's some strains of green kratom, and the colors come from the veins in the leaves. Basically, if it's got red veins in it, it's a red kratom. And it basically, Mengda is the flower. It's kratom made from the flower, not just the leaves. So there's a whole bunch of different things I've been learning, yeah. And like the horn varieties, it means the end of the leaves are like pinned up and like turned up in like a horn shape. So, but I've been talking to a lot of people. There's a guy I talk to regularly on Twitter, and he suffers from seizures, and he has a pump installed to basically help him because he's got tumors or something on the brain that are completely inoperable. They can't do anything for him. And he used to take kratom, and he said he felt like he became addicted to it and went through the withdrawals. But he was buying it already prepackaged, like you would like supplements at stores. You know, where you go to the gas station and it says herbal energy supplements or herbal libido supplements. You know, it wasn't from like
It's real, dude.
yeah. So, but also with him having such a horrible diagnosis, I would caution anybody with like a severe diagnosis, seriously talk to doctors, pharmacists before you do any of these things. But it seems to be a common thing popping up now is people talking about people becoming addicted to kratom and how dangerous it is. And there have been ill effects with kratom, but the people that they have found that overdosed or did something terrible was because they were mixing it with their normal opiates, alcohol, and other drugs. And so, like with anything,
yeah.
you mix it up, you're going to get mixed reactions. So, and as I caution everybody about, you know, don't just do it because everybody else is doing it. You know, this isn't a bridge. We're not all jumping off of it, but it has worked for some. And be leery.
Well, I
of those
really
people
don't
that
have
sell the
anything
kratom
left to
too.
lose. I don't have anything left to lose.
Right.
You know, I don't want to get suicidal because of the pain. You know, and I never have been suicidal. I've suffered with depression for years, and I was seeing the psychiatrist, and I was getting my antidepressants from them, and you know, and then I'd go see pain management. And so between the two doctors, I was getting my needs met. You know, I wasn't depressed, but that's one thing that I've noticed when I've got off of everything, my depression is basically halted. I don't have depression. I don't sit and cry. I don't feel hopeless. You know, I don't need antidepressants anymore. So I'm wondering if maybe the opiates were causing the depression. I don't know. I need to go back to the psychiatrist, but I mean, I had basically washed my hands of all doctors, you know. And hell, I used to be a nurse. I mean, I used to swear by pharmaceuticals, you know, oh, get this, get on this medicine, you know. And now I'm just kind of anti-doctors. But I mean, I'm tired of laying around in bed. I'm tired of, because I mean, when I was on
sick and tired.
Yeah, when I was on pain management, I could go camping with my friends. I could go visit my friends. I could go grocery shopping. I could cook. I could do housework. I could do crafts. You know, I was more fun to be around. But when that came to a screeching halt, I became irritable and angry and more and more isolated. And so I want my quality of life back because the quality of life I have right now is basically non-existent.
Right.
You know, I know that God didn't bring me this far to let me down now. So, you know, but I'm not going to get my hopes up high about going back to pain management and getting on opiates. I have to be realistic about this because chances are they're not going to until that something changes with our government.
I think that in time it's going to kind of even out, and that if the chronic pain community, you know, is the loudest, they'll get listened to. You know, the squeaky wheel thing.
Yeah, and if they have reasonable people making the noise too.
Oh, right. Oh, and the people who are doing it, you know, are so sincere, and you know, so it's happening. It's just that we don't have a great big powerful organization. You know, we should for as many of us as there are, but you know, we don't have an NRA for pain.
We need to create one.
If we didn't, well, you know, I chip in $20 a year. You know, for
carry our license to carry.
Right. License to carry opiates.
John Plett in the chat brings up a good point. There's a reason doctors call their office a practice. You know, because
yes,
yeah,
yes, they keep practicing, and someday they'll get it right.
Well, I tried looking at my good pain management doctor because while towards the end, like 2011 or so, he got some sanctions like from the DEA for overprescribing. Yeah. I mean, I think what the deal was he was prescribing a 30-day supply every 28 days, and he got in trouble because people ended up having extra medication.
Well, see,
so maybe it was like 2010, I think it was, because he got sanctioned for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And so he had to switch to prescribing 28-day supply, and but then in 2012, he sold his practice. And I think that he foresaw the potential complications that were going to happen down the road. And he knew he was going to lose a lot of his patients, and he knew it was going to change. And so he got out. I mean, he made a ton of money. I mean, he was an interventional pain management doctor. He was an anesthesiologist. He was board certified in pain management, and he had offices all over Houston. And I mean, he had lots of patients. And I mean, I saw him from 98 till 2012. And I was the same doctor, the same pharmacy. And then after he sold his practice, I mean, it all changed because my insurance changed, and then my pharmacy changed, and then I tried to get my meds filled, and they didn't have it. Or then, I'd be on that insurance for a year, and then I couldn't afford it anymore. So it was like I was insurance hopping from year to year so I could be able to afford the procedures and the medications and whatnot. And so the last few years have just really been bad. I mean, 2015 was very expensive for me as far as copays, because I found out I had kidney stones. I had bilateral staghorn kidney stones, and I had umpteen procedures, laser, lithotripsies, and they had to put stents in my ureters. And every time I turned around, I was having to pay $100 copayment for an outpatient procedure, but see, I think maybe I violated my pain contract. It's really hard for me to remember all that was going on, but I think I might have gotten some pain medicine from my urologist along with the pain management.
That happened to me too. It's like I had gone to the doctor. It's like I had a urologist too, because I had the kidney stones where they had to actually surgically go and remove it. It got stuck in the ureter. And
ouch.
And I had my regular doctor because of the car accident and everything, right? And they gave me the pain medicine. I didn't take it to the pharmacy and fill it or anything. And the doctor's, my orthopedic doctor's like, well, you violated because they had me on with a pain management doctor, and it was just tramadol I was taking. And he was very, very, very strict. And he's like, well, you got a prescription from this practice, blah, 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 so we're canceling your pain management. I'm like, really? Really? It's not even been turned in. I still physically have the prescription paper right here.
Oh, no.
And I violated my pain contract.
No, that's not right.
Yeah. Well, no, see, I think what happened is there were several pain management places. I think the Seattle Pain Institute or something, it was finally shut down because they were basically pill mills, which there was conflicting stories. There were some patients that were going in there like, look, they're not managing my pain. They're not giving my prescriptions or referring me out to places to get those injections or anything like that. And then there were other people that were just getting hand over fist these extra prescriptions, which is how the pain medicine ends up on the market, is people going to doctors, ooh, I hurt, give me drugs, and then they go and they sell their drugs, and then next month they come back on time, oh, I hurt, give me drugs. And so it was basically a pill mill for profit. The people that were actually hurting weren't getting the help, but the people that were selling the meds. So there was a lot of talk about were the doctors involved in it and making money from the doctors, prescribing the pain meds to patients.
There was a pill mill that popped up maybe less than a block away from my good pain management doctor, and it was in kind of a shady part of town. And I mean, people would line up around the corner. I mean, there'd be 50 people standing in line to get in this place. I mean, it was like a physical therapy office, but they set up a pill mill. I would watch it happen. But the regular pharmacist where I would go to get my meds filled after I saw my good pain doctor, he refused to fill those people's prescriptions because he saw what was going on too. But finally they shut it down. But I mean, just right across the parking lot practically, I mean, was a pill mill that popped up right across from a board certified interventional pain management doctor.
Oh, God.
I mean, my doctor, he did procedures, but he didn't harp on them like they do now. I mean, now you go in and they want to do epidural steroids or facet blocks. I mean, then they change the rules and you have to have 2 blocks before you can get the ablation done. And you can't get your meds until you have the procedure done. And I mean, I ran into problems with that because I had a shingles outbreak and I was scheduled for a sacroiliac joint block and a facet block, but I had an active shingles outbreak right about where they were going to do it. And so I showed it to one doctor. It's like, oh, no, this good thing we were going to cancel it. But I don't think he communicated with the doctor that was writing my scripts, because one doctor was doing procedures only and the other doctor was doing medication management. And so I think I got lost in the shuffle. I think I got labeled as a non-compliant patient because I canceled my procedure and didn't follow up. I mean, but I know that they labeled me and then they started watching me. But I mean, about 3 times they sent off like these expensive gas chromatography, mass spectrographer, whatever. It's real complicated confirmation test that they do on your urinalysis. I mean, it was like $1,600 that Medicare didn't pay for these fancy tests. And they did that like 3 different times. And I thought, man, these fancy labs are in cahoots with the pain management doctor, and they're just bilking Medicare to make money. I mean, and all these tests aren't really warranted. I mean, that seems like the test which should only be warranted for like an autopsy. I mean, it's crazy what they've resorted to. It's crazy. So I just got fed up with it all.
It's insane because you will.
But you're hanging in there.
Yeah, and you will get labeled, and that's the crazy part is once you're labeled as something, because there are quite a few like just asshole doctors, but I can understand because they picked a profession where they're seeing for every person that's legitimately hurting or having something going on with them, they get 10 people that are like, ooh, ow, I hurt. Fix it, wasting their time, and then they've seen so much bad they get jaded. And unlike with social work and other things, it's hard to switch professions.
With my history of working in the emergency room, I worked in a busy level 1 trauma center. I mean, Harris County Hospital District. And we had the poorest of the poor. And we saw the most horrific wrecks and the most horrible gunshots. I mean, cops would get shot. They'd bring them to Ben Top. And so we got a lot of those drug seekers, per se. But this was back in the 90s. And so it wasn't as prevalent. I mean, we could spot them, because we would pull up their history, and they were like frequent flyers in the emergency room. And a lot of them, if they came in with flank pain and they'd say they're allergic to IVP dye, that was a telltale sign that they were a drug seeker. So that's when they started ordering CAT scans for people with flank pain with blood in their urine. Some people would poke their finger and put a drop of blood in their urine.
Oh my God.
So they're allergic to IVP dye so they could get some drugs. So that's about the time they started making it mandatory for you to get a CAT scan instead of an intravenous pyelogram or
my husband gets frequent kidney stones, but he has a fatty liver. He was never an alcoholic or anything. It was just he was overweight. And so the doctors told him, his primary doctor told him, do not take Tylenol. No Tylenol for you with your fatty liver there, buddy. And so he would tell them at the emergency room, because he would only go to the doctor when he absolutely had to, typical male thing. And so like once or twice a year, he'd end up in the emergency room and he'd tell him, he's like, look, if you're going to prescribe me something with Tylenol in it, I can't take it, And so he ended up getting labeled. And he just quit going to the doctor. He's just like, I'll just suffer and deal with it and pee it out. So it's insane.
I've been having some intermittent flank pain, and I need to go to the doctor and get reevaluated. But I don't know if it's possibly the spread of the arachnoiditis that's causing this area to hurt, or okay, my urine is clear. I don't have any signs of an infection. It's not colicky like the kidney stone pain was before, but it gnaws at me, and it's like I know something's going on, but I really just don't even want to get back in the system with all the bad experience I've had over the last few years. It's like I've given up, because I had some nausea going on for about a month before I finally went to the ER about it. and I had some flank pain, and I told them about it. And I mean, they gave me some IV Demerol, and they did CAT scan and ultrasound of my kidneys, and they gave me some nausea medicine, which helped. And then they sent me home with a prescription for some nausea medicine and an antibiotic. They finally said I had a urinary tract infection, which it doesn't surprise me. But I went to get the medication filled, and the pharmacy said, "Oh, well, you need prior authorization for that." And this was on a weekend, and I was still nauseated. And so I called the insurance company. I said, "Well, what's the deal?" I said, "Well, is this other medication covered?" They said, "No, you need prior authorization for that too." And so I said, "Well, can you call the emergency room doctor back and see if they can prescribe this?" I mean, I had to go around Medicare because both medications on their formulary for nausea meds needed prior authorization. That's how bad the insurance has gotten.
Yeah.
And so I had to use Good RX to get a generic form of some nausea medicine. That was on the weekend. I mean, if you don't know what I know about how to get through the ropes, I mean, you those kind of people just wind up back at the emergency room, because they don't know what to do. So, but I've since changed insurance plans since that happened. But they treated me like I was a drug seeker at the emergency room. So that's why I'm wondering if I have a red flag on my chart.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
with the way
I really-
everything's connected now, everybody can see each other's things and everything. Is if you're labeled something somewhere, you're going to be labeled something everywhere. It's that big
Yeah.
scary Skynet thing. It's like everything's connected. And
So, I mean, I
it
might
might
go
have
back to
even
my-
been it might have been even been like at St. Peter's Hospital in Olympia. If like I said, if you've been in there twice in a year, they automatically, it's just part of their procedure now, they have to label you as something, and then after a while it's supposed to go away, but it doesn't always go away, because it'd been like over 2 years
Well,
since
the
I'd
thing
been to
that-
that
the
hospital,
thing
and
that-
they came and talked to me. I was like, I haven't been here in 2 years. They're like, oh well, it was auto flagged. Like,
Well, the thing that upset me was, I mean, they were treating me like a drug addict, and they did this CAT scan and ultrasound and lab work, and I waited and waited. And then right before they were going to send me home, they came in and hung a bag of IV fluid and ran a liter of fluid in and said, "You're dehydrated." And I'm thinking, well, if I was so dehydrated, my labs would have indicated that.
yeah.
And why didn't y'all hydrate me before you did the CAT scan and the ultrasound? I mean, why'd y'all do that first? It was crazy. I mean, I was there for like 7 hours, and I mean, an hour before they let me go, they're hanging an IV bag. That was, to me, that was back asswards. You know?
Here's the thing that bothers me is, like, drug addicts aren't gonna wait through all those procedures. I mean, it's
Right, they'll get up and
they're gonna
leave.
walk out and say, screw this, and they'll go get their fix somewhere else or do something stupid and scary. But I mean, if a person is there just seeking drugs, it's an insane
Well,
system.
I had nausea for a month before I finally broke down and said, okay. And you go to the emergency room when you're at the end of your rope, and then they treat you like that. I mean, it's very disheartening. Very.
Well, it's crazy is out here they had like a huge influx after Obamacare happened, where for new patient appointments they were booking people out, and this is with even like new practices opening. They were taking at least 3 months to get a new patient appointment. And it's like now it's like, okay, there's the providers, but apparently we have way too many people in our system now, so there's a backlog. But something I want to touch on here.
I've got a
What's that, Mom?
Hey, Red, can in the middle of one of these, can you show a video?
Yeah,
or
I'm getting ready to switch over the visuals of like.
Oh, okay.
I've got to be careful about videos I show, because if I show somebody else's YouTube video, I can get a copyright flag and they'll terminate the stream in the middle of the stream. So I've got to be careful about what I show or what audio I play.
I'll look for. I'll look for it's a real short video. It's actually more like a slideshow of Kratom in Indonesia.
Okay,
just to get an idea of how big a business it is.
Yeah, well, because
I think I saw that. I think I already saw that. Was that the one that?
Or did you look at it?
Is that the
I
one
didn't
that
think
Mama
anybody.
does?
I didn't think anybody had because I thought Larry would be real interested in it, and he didn't.
Well, see, the article I've got queued up right now is from
But
Kratomaton, the unbiased Kratom database.
yes,
And it's about that. How long do the effects of Kratom last? It's got like a whole huge thing here that I'm getting ready to switch over to show people, you know, some of the good things about the Kratom. So let's see. I gotta go to my OBS, into the manual, switch off. I gotta do that, and then display capture. There we go. All right, there it is. So the article I've got up is from Kratomaton, and it says, how long do the effects of Kratom last? And that's a big question that people ask. And for me, I've had different experiences, and it also depends on who you are and how anything really affects you. So up here it says, Kratom, the ground leaves of the Southeast Asian tree Mitragina speciosa, is globally renowned for its sedative and pain-relieving properties. Many types or quote-unquote strains of Kratom exist, and each possesses unique characteristics. For instance,
what are you guys?
let's see here. I'll
What
send
are
you
you guys
the
doing?
article. Let's see here.
Is it okay?
Oh, I'll be talking to the puppies. Here we go. So I put it in the live stream chat for those that want to look at it here, and then I will put it in the chat. Here we go. Here we go. I'm gonna paste it in the chat too, so folks, if they want to look at the article, they can look at it. But it says, for instance, some Kratom strains are reported to have a more sedating nature. Other strains have been reported to be more energetic in comparison. This variability between strains can also be observed in each strain's duration of effects. Just as some Kratom strains might be more stimulating than sedating, other users have reported that the effects of some strains seem to last longer than others. So what's the reason for this? And is there any correlation between strain type and its duration of effects? Here at Kratomaton, we were eager to know the answers to these questions and so many more. So we looked at all 51 strains in our current database. Yeah, they've got a database on 51 different strains. And they did some number crunching to see if we could find any observable trends. Based purely on aggregated user data, here are the findings. The longest lasting Kratom strain colors. First place was green Kratom strains. And I've experienced that they last about 8 hours or so, depending on it. And it says,
What did you say, green?
Green is the one, according to their data, it lasts the longest. Given that red Kratom strains tend to be the longest lasting, we were surprised to discover that when averaged, green Kratom strains come in first place for their duration effects, which is an average duration score of 7.75. I don't know what their scores are. I might have to look that up. But these findings indicate that most strains in the green family will likely last upwards of 4 to 5 hours, following a moderate dosage, 2.5 to 5 grams. Of course, user experience may vary, but those numbers are certainly impressive and represent the upper echelon of what seems to be possible with Kratom. Keep in mind that the standard half-life of Kratom's primary psychoactive alkaloid, mitragynine, I think it is, it's either G9 or Guy9, has been observed to be 3.85 with an additional variability range of about 1 hour. So it basically depends on the dose. And then, let's see, Kratom's secondary alkaloid, 7-hydroxymitragynine. It's been a long time since I've had to read medical terminology. I should be able to do this. Hydroxymitragynine, or whatever. Here, this is the word right here. Seems to possess a much shorter duration and possesses an average half-life of 2.5 hours with the availability of 0.7 hours. So it can last anywhere from like 4 to 8 hours, depending on the strain.
Well, I found that I only tried like 3 different kinds, but the green manga, however you say it, has helped me the most.
And see, the Mingda is from the flower, if I'm to understand correctly. The Mingda means flower, and that's where the Mingda strains come from. Is like it could be a red Mingda, but it could be like a Bali Mingda because it's grown in Bali, and that's also what helps with what the Kratom does is what it gets from the soil and where it's grown at, and what kind of nutrients and stuff go into it. Depends, it makes what the Kratom is. Like the Bali strain was supposed to have been originally grown in Bali, and what grew in the soil there caused it to have its effects that it has. But now Bali has become the generic term for kratom, basically. So, like the Bali can be grown in Thailand and a whole bunch of different other places. So,
I'm wondering if Israel is on top of kratom, like Israel is on top of research going on with cannabis. Because, I mean, Israel has extensive studies going on about the effects of cannabis with nausea, with pain, and whatnot. But it'd be interesting to find out what kind of studies that Israel's doing with kratom.
Well, that would be interesting. I
Yeah.
have no idea about Israel and their the cannabis studies.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's legal in Israel, but I mean, they've done tons of research about cannabis. So I mean, that might be a route to look for information to see if they're doing any studies. Because I mean, it's like the U.S. I mean, in order to study it, they need to declassify it, but they're wanting to classify it as a Schedule 1 so that nobody can get the patent on it. Because I think Big Pharma just wants in on it. They want to patent. They want to patent the active ingredient so they can make drugs with its derivatives and make lots and lots of money on it. That's why they're trying to make it illegal.
Yeah, well, it's because they're scared. They don't know. It's like they're afraid people are going to do this. And some people are freaking out because of the dangers of the kratom, supposedly. It's kind of like when people used to put energy, like there was caffeine in like the malt liquor beverages. Like the Four Loko, people like college students were getting alcohol poisoning on it because they were drinking so much of it and doing stupid things. College kids and dumb adults are going to do dumb things. It's just what they're going to do. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that probably some of these college kids that, from what I've been told by others, is they got high on kratom because of how much they took. Like, they were taking shit tons of it and getting that psychoactive effect. And I was like, that's just stupid. I mean, if you want to get high, there's other ways to get high, but the kratom is there supposed to be, like, for alleviating pain and, just, different health issues. And if you take massive doses of it just to experience the high once or twice, you're going to ruin anything you've done so far as to, getting on a management of your issues. So, but I think they're scared of it because they're going to lose money.
I don't think I'm getting addicted to it because I've been using it for about 4 months and I haven't escalated my dose. I don't crave it. Right. I'm not constantly trying to figure out how to get more, and I'm not breaking the law to get more. That's addiction. That's addiction.
See, there was at one point, I had like a bad strain of kratom I bought it from a different location rather than where I normally do. And it was supposed to be a yellow strain, but it turns out it was a red strain. And it's like, I took it, nothing happened. And then it's like, I took like a couple tablespoons of it. And I was like, God damn it. I was just like, why won't this work? And when you took it at the couple tablespoons dose, it worked. It actually took away the pain. And so I had to take it at that large dose. And I'm like, what the hell? Then I learned, because this was early on in my stages of taking kratom. Then I learned that you're only supposed to take a couple grams of this stuff, and you're supposed to weigh it, not measure it, because the granules in the kratom itself are different sizes, so you can't like measure it. You have to weigh it. And
I don't weigh mine. I just use a teaspoon.
Right? But it's like they're ground at different consistencies. So, but I ended up taking the higher doses of it, and then I ran out of that variety, and I started to actually go through withdrawal. I'm like, I haven't gone through withdrawals in decades. It's like, this is insane. So, but after getting to the store where I buy it now and buying the regular types that I buy, I don't go through withdrawal. What it is that my migraines come back with a vengeance, and my anxiety spikes through the roof. So it's like, it's not so much like the physical addiction that you have to have it. It's like, okay, crap, my medical needs are no longer being met, and I need to do something about this. So I wonder if people are confusing that with withdrawal, because I have a slide up here of what actual withdrawal from something is. Like when you withdraw from opiates or anything, it's a seriously like physical effect of like stomach pains, cramps, all kinds of just horror. You can end up messing
yawning,
yourself and
runny nose, sneezing, diarrhea. That would be, but that's for opiates. I don't know what it would be for kratom, and thank God I haven't run out.
Yeah. So no,
I'm ready to start hoarding kratom though.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, it's like with any medication. If you use it when you need it, not just to use it, you know. But people are people, and people are stupid. So,
So, Laura, have you gotten your package?
It was there Saturday, but I got to the little post office place to pick it up like 15 minutes late, and they were closed, so I have to wait till tomorrow to get it.
At least it made it.
Yeah,
you know, I always worry about things.
Yeah, so
You read when we're off, we're typing that. Or we could just go to Hangups and chat. Anyway, to Laura what we talked about yesterday, because that's something she could do too.
True, very true.
You know,
So,
the little machine and.
What did I miss?
Oh,
what
Mom and I had a conversation.
I don't know.
Offline.
Is anybody listening?
Yes.
Can you tell if you have listeners?
Yeah, there's the at one point we had 12 people watching. Now there's 6 people watching. There's other streams going on that my crew usually, the people that watch my streams watch other streamers too, and they're probably doing some gaming streams and other stuff. But yeah, we've got 6 people watching.
We won't talk about it when we have an audience. We'll talk about it, you know, another time. But we have a don't get rich quick idea.
Right. So this third strain they're talking about here,
Red and I are we're full of good ideas.
Right.
You know, just full.
I'm full of some bad ones too. So.
Well, we have some stinky ones, but for the most part, they're brilliant. Especially if we had the health to do them. That's been our biggest hang up is. Oh, that's a really great idea, but you know, I don't know if I could.
I don't know if I could
commit
to that.
I don't. Yeah, 8-hour day or a 10-hour day. But we got a good one this time.
All right, this is another strain that apparently not very many people were familiar with, the gold strains of kratom. But gold kratom, they used to get this at the store I went to all the time, and it was a yellow gold, and it was amazing. There's 2 strains that I really want to get again that you didn't have to take much of it, and it was amazing. It helps with my anxiety, pain, everything. It was yellow gold and the green super. So those were 2 strains that have just been amazing, but you have to be careful because there's some places that claim they have it, and then you go to take it, and it's not what they said it was. It's like, no, that is not it. So.
You know, okay, now that's something that I don't care if there's only one person listening, but that it really needs to be talked about, is that you have no idea what you're really getting. Anybody can call it whatever they want. Every seller can call it green or red or brown or purple.
Yeah, because the kratom itself isn't necessarily that color.
Right, that's for sure. And gee, Joe, what is this? Which one is this? And Joe says, oh, it looks like green mangda to me. Oh, okay. And who knows who named it to begin with.
Right.
So you're just lucky if you get the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Right.
This guy's all grown overseas.
Yeah, when you go to the smoke shop and they've purchased bulk from Indonesia and they repackage it, you don't know what it is. I mean, they could label it red or green or whatever, and just kind of have to trust that you're getting what they say they're going to get. But my fear is that somehow, God forbid, that fentanyl will wind up in the kratom supply.
You know, there's going to be idiots that do that, because like the smoke shop I go to buy my kratom usually, they've gotten lots of people off of heroin and other things, because in downtown Olympia, the crack epidemic popped back up, and heroin and fentanyl and all that has been like really bad down in that area, but they like to try to hide it. But there's been quite a few people getting off of the drugs there. But for every person they get off the drugs, there's a skeezy drug dealer that sees a money-making opportunity and says, how can I make people actually addicted to this and make more money off of it?
Right.
So, some idiot somewhere's already done it.
I go with what my gut tells me, and my gut says that eventually, I mean, because if they can't get it in through Mexico and from China in the mail, they're going to get it in through the kratom somehow. I don't want to
Yep.
give anybody ideas, but I mean, you just have to be aware of it. You have to think about that.
Or tea or coffee beans and actually coffee because it has such a strong aroma. That drug dogs, I don't know, maybe you can't fool drug dogs, but it's going to get down to that. But yeah, it's coming in through FedEx.
See, this is what
Right.
folks have to realize is if people want to do drugs and sell drugs, they are going to do drugs and sell drugs. They are always going to be 10 steps ahead of the legal process. If people are going to do bad, they're going to do bad. When it comes to guns, drugs, anything. If people are going to do bad, they're going to do bad. And the only thing you can do is basically try to protect yourself from it. And that is another scare tactic they're using is because the smoke shop I buy from, they order by the ton. And they had like 2 tons of kratom that got held up at customs for over a month because they wanted to, they had to train the dogs how to really sniff through kratom or whatever. I don't know, but
I wonder what kind of price they get on a ton.
Oh God. And that stuff's messy to deal with too. It's so fine and powdery. But I mean, people are gonna find a way to do their drugs. Hell, there's some people who've gotten creative enough to try to grow their own opium flowers here in the States and make their own opium. I mean, there's people were growing pot plants when it was highly illegal and prison time. People make methamphetamines. They made it illegal to buy so many cough syrup things, and you had to show your ID. But people are still making meth.
If I lived in the South, I'd be growing kratom in the front yard.
Not in Alabama, you wouldn't.
I'd make it. Well, because nobody knows what it is.
Well, Muhammad said that it's illegal for him to ship seeds because I've already asked him about getting some seeds.
Yeah,
he said it's illegal and you get in trouble to sell seeds.
I think you could buy seeds on eBay.
Yeah, but then again, you could buy CBD stuff on eBay and kratom on eBay, but you're never guaranteed that it's like technically eBay's not supposed to be able to sell THC or CBD, but they still technically somehow do it. It's like any of the stuff I got off of eBay that's supposed to have CBDs in it, it never worked the way they said it was supposed to. So, but I'd be leery about buying it from them, but there are quite a few places that are selling it. I was doing my research that there are places that are selling plant starts. So
all of it.
But so let's see. The rest of this. The rest of this article. This is about the red Mang Da. So, but oh wow. So I'm learning something new here according to this one. It says, longest lasting kratom strains. For those craving a long-lasting experience, here are 5 kratom strains that should keep you satisfied. To mix things up, we included 1 strain of each color. Keep in mind that a higher score doesn't definitively mean that a strain is longer lasting. Instead, these numbers should be seen as a reference range, as there is some subjectivity to be expected. Like red Mang Da, aka red horn. See, the way it was explained to me by some people is that the horns was like the horn of the leaf. The red Mang Da here, they're calling it red horn as well. And it says potentially long-lasting and offering a balanced profile of effects. Red Mang Da may garner favor amongst red strain enthusiasts and non-fans alike. And then there's the gold Bentwangi, purportedly offering a balanced blend of sedation and pain relief with minimal fatigue. So it's sedation without fatigue. That's an interesting combo. But the gold Bentwangi is demonstratively unique strain with plenty of potentials. A moderate dose should last upwards of 4 to 5 hours. The only obvious con is that it can be difficult to track down.
I ordered some of that from Muhammad.
And see, it's weird here. They're calling this the green horn, but they're not saying AKA Mang Da. It says, existing somewhere between a red and a white strain, greenhorn appears to offer a remarkable and well-balanced plethora of effects, as well as being long-lasting to boot. On average, users have reported a duration of 4 to 5 hours. So, yeah.
It's all subjective. It's just a matter of you know, of opinion. Because I'll, you know, and then if the three of us were to, you know, take the same amount, we could have three different experiences. You
Yeah,
know, it could be
exactly.
pain relief for one and relaxing for another and a stimulant for the third. I mean, that's the thing about kratom is that, you know, there aren't really hard and fast rules.
And see, this is where I can understand why some people in the public would be afraid. We're like, well, wait a minute, we don't know exactly what we're getting, and what we're what we're doing with it. This should be moderated. It's like if it should be moderated, they pretty much all I'm seeing for people with their effects is that they're like, okay, well, it's a little too sedative for me. There's the random 1 in 5,000 that gets sent to the emergency room because they have an allergy or something. So, and eventually someday on here, I would like to have is an anti-kratom person that for some reason they have maybe more information, you know.
I'm sure those will sprout too.
So, but somebody with information that would.
Yeah. Overall, if it helps people, there's going to be somebody against it.
Yeah, I believe that. Well,
That's
maybe
for
we need to
sure.
divert the government. Maybe we need to divert the CDC from opiates to kratom or some other substance.
Right. Right.
Just so we
Well,
can get off of it.
they would just hate it all.
Oh yeah, that's what their job is.
So
just to
what's
hate.
the Red? What's the thing about time for a podcast
Oh,
for a stream?
they usually run about 2 hours. Anything over that gets.
I mean, do you have to like vacate the stream?
Thanks to people like April Rain, they limited time streams that you can only stream consecutively for 12 hours, and then you have to restart your stream. She was a girl who fell asleep drunk on her streams, and yeah.
There's nobody waiting for us to get out, right?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, the other thing I've got here is the public meeting for patients. Oh wow. This is coming up July 9th. This is something for people dealing with pain or interested in the pain community. It's a public meeting for patient-focused drug development on chronic pain, United States Food and Drug Administration, Monday, July 9th, 2018. Consumer, in parentheses, patient/care partners feedback. And it's requesting, it's a request for consumer feedback due by June 17th, 2018. So you can actually respond and tell the Food and Drug Administration how you feel, your experiences, and it's got the instructions on, how to reply to this. I'm going to throw it up over here in chat so that way folks watching can see it.
That's a great opportunity for people to say how they've been affected by the CDC. What is that? I'm trying to remember what CDC stands for.
It's not letting me put it in the chat. That's weird.
Center for Disease Control.
Yeah, the CDC.
Yeah, Center for Disease Control. I knew that somewhere. Anyway, ever since they came out with all of their rules
control.
Anyway, it's an opportunity for us to say, hey, you've made life hell. Because how do they know? They're affecting 50 million people, 100 million people easily.
Right.
All these rules and stuff, because you don't have to be a chronic pain person. You could go into the hospital to get your tonsils out, and they won't give you anything for pain.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't even realize it's going on, and then they fall off a roof and they break their leg in 5 places, and they have emergency surgery, and they're treated well for the pain in the hospital. It's when they go home that they don't get the medicine they need, or I mean, it's even happening in the hospitals where they don't have the medication to treat their pain in the hospital because of the opioid crisis, because they've cut down on the production by 25%. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's really, really sad. I mean, I don't think once the bottom line, once these doctors, people start canceling their surgeries and canceling elective surgeries, and people start canceling plastic surgery and whatnot because they're not going to get medication afterward, that's when they'll finally do something about it. But it's all the people that suffer them in the interim, with the emergency surgeries and uh, I mean, just reading some of these posts on Twitter, it's like, golly, let me stay in my little bubble and not go anywhere. God forbid I should fall down and hurt myself, and then I'm going to have to suffer even more.
See,
one thing for sure is.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say one thing for sure on Twitter is that there's always somebody worse off than you.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. There's always somebody out there, and you read about it. We have someone come to room who's getting fused or whatever between her neck and her butt. I don't know how many different. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do that, but she's facing.
Oh, is that the lady?
Really hellacious.
Is that the lady with the art website?
Yeah. Yes.
I forget her name.
Artist.
Yeah.
Well, see, I
don't think it was from the neck to her butt, but seems like it was her whole neck that was getting fused.
Well, I've got a story
all the way
here.
down to her.
This is from Colville, Washington. What the? Oh, this is Kenyon.
That's the story that I was interviewed by that guy for this story, but my story was pretty boring compared to this guy.
Yeah, so this is a guy that was it's called Unintended Consequences, and this is done by the Washington Post, and it's from Colville, Washington. The morning of the long drive, a drive he took every month now, Kenyon Stewart rose from the living room recliner and winced in pain. He looked outside at the valley stretching below his trailer and again wondered whether it was getting time to end it. He believed living was a choice, and this was how he considered making his. A trip to the gun store, a purchase of a Glock 9mm, an answer to a problem that didn't seem to have one. Stewart is 49 years old. He has long silver hair and an 8th grade education. For the past 4 years, he has taken large amounts of prescription opioids ever since surgery to replace his left hip, ruined by decades of trucking, left him with nerve damage. In the time since, his life buckled. First he lost his job, then his house, forcing a move across the state to this trailer park, then began a monthly drive of 367 miles back to his old pain clinic for an opioid prescription that no doctor nearby would write. It's 10 after, reminded Tyra Mach, his partner of 27 years, watching him limp over to her. Gotta go. He hugged her for a long moment outside the bathroom with the missing door. Head full of anxiety, he knew what awaited him on the other side of the drive. Another impossibly difficult conversation with his provider, who, scared by the rising number of opioid prescribers facing criminal prosecution, would soon close the pain clinic. Another cut in his dosage in preparation for that day. More thoughts of the Glock. The story of prescription opioids in America today is not only one of addiction, overdoses, and crimes they have wrought, but also the story of pain patients like Kenyon Stewart and their increasingly desperate struggles to secure the medication. After decades of explosive growth, the annual volume of prescription opioids shrank 29% between 2011 and 2017, even as the number of overdose deaths has climbed ever higher. According to the IQVIA Institute for Human Data Science, which collects data for federal agencies, the drop in prescriptions has been greater still for patients receiving high doses, most of whom have chronic pain. So, yeah, it's the prescription's dropping, the prescription rates, but the overdoses are still going. So, it says, the correction.
Right, there are fewer prescriptions.
Yeah, fewer prescriptions.
Fewer prescriptions are being written, and more people are dying.
Yeah, so much for their correlation. The correction has been so rapid and so excruciating for some patients that a growing number of doctors, health experts, and patient advocates are expressing alarm that the race to end one crisis may be inadvertently creating another. I am seeing many people who are being harmed by these sometimes draconian actions amid this headstrong rush into finding a simple solution to this incredibly complicated problem, said Sean McKay, the chief of Stanford University's Division of Pain Medicine. I do worry about the unintended consequences. Chronic pain patients such as Stewart are driving extraordinary distances to find or continue seeing doctors. They are flying across the country to fill prescriptions. Some have turned to unregulated alternatives such as kratom, which the Drug Enforcement Administration warns could cause dependency and psychotic symptoms. And yet others are threatening suicide on social media and have even followed through. As doctors taper pain medications in a massive undertaking that Stefan Kurtzes, a professor at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, I know that word, who studies addiction and opioids, described as having no precedent in the history of medicine. The trend accelerated last year, in part as a result of the guidelines the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published in 2016, noting that long-term opioid use among patients with chronic pain increased the likelihood of addiction and overdose and had uncertain benefits. They discouraged doses higher than the equivalent of 90 milligrams of morphine. So it's a one-size-fits-all for pain management, and that's not feasible. So, all right, we got a little bit more here. The guidelines criticized as neither accounting for the differences in how quickly patients metabolize opioids, nor addressing clearly enough what to do about patients who were receiving more than 90 morphine milligrams, helped to open a new era of regulation. Dozens of states, Medicare, and large pharmacy chains such as CVS have since announced or imposed restrictions on opioid prescriptions. The Justice Department, in a continuing push to crack down on pill mills and reckless doctors, announced in January that it would focus on providers writing quote-unquote unusual or disproportionate prescriptions. And some physicians, fearful of the financial and legal peril in prescribing opioids and newly aware of their hazards, have stopped prescribing them altogether. We have to be careful of using a blunt instrument where a fine scalpel is needed, said former Surgeon General Vivek H. Murthy, who prioritized the opioid crisis during his tenure and wants to increase access to alternative treatments. We already experienced a pendulum swing in one direction, and if we swing the pendulum the other direction, we will hurt people. Stewart, who said he hurt more every day, let go of Tyra. See you Friday night, he whispered to her, like always. He went outside to his truck. He checked for the third time that his near-empty pain medication bottles were in his duffel bag. Zipping the bag, he sighed. What he had left, 5 pills, would never last him until his next refill, 2 days from now. The pain, the withdrawal, all of it was only hours away. It would hit during the drive, and he knew it. How much longer could he keep doing this? How much longer could he afford to blow $900 a month on gas, food, 2 nights in a motel, and pills for which he had no insurance? How much longer could he drive so many miles for less and less? Something had to change, but for now he started the truck, pulled out on the mountain road, and then 1 mile was down, and there were 366 to go. So, oh wow, this is a long story. Good grief.
Yeah, I read it. I didn't read it all at first, but then when someone commented on something that was in there, I went back and reread it. But it's an excellent story. Really depressing, but
Yeah,
it
it was well written.
mhm.
Oh yeah.
Well written. It was a real human interest. You really you felt like you were with him on that truck ride. Maybe because we can relate to how he felt. You know, that the futility. You know, and you're gonna go and you're gonna do it, and this is like the last trip. And, you know, that gun. You know, you gotta think about that. And you know, anyway, it was a very, very good story. But if anybody out there is real interested in learning more about um, what people with pain are doing to deal with pain and to deal with uh, lack of pain meds or them being cut off, you know, come to Twitter and just do a search for, you know, for pain or CPP, chronic pain patients. And there's a lot to learn, and um, there's a pretty nice community out there in general. You know, folks is folks. That there's always going to be, you know,
And like
some folks, but for the most part, you know, we hang pretty tight.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, this
It
guy's.
sounded good, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm reading his story, and I like streamed through the pictures, and I've actually driven past like this point. We've actually had pictures taken at that point, but he's talking about it's like apparently they botched his surgery, they screwed it up, but the lawyers he attempted to sue, but the lawyer said he wasn't damaged enough to sue him.
I wonder if there's any
Yeah, I
follow-up.
wouldn't move.
Is there any follow-up on that story? I mean, he needs to be part of our pain community.
Let's see. I'm reading his.
Well, I wrote to Terry McCoy, the guy that wrote it, and I said because I had talked to him, on the phone. Have him contact me. I can for some kratom and tell him what's what. That I'd be more than happy to. I haven't heard back, but I tried.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I mean, at least kratom, for crying out loud. But he was on a pretty high dose. He was on a lot higher than
Yeah. He was on a dose.
than mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently he lost his trucking license due to his it said up here he was talking about how he got to where he's at, where he's the doses they started him on, and that he smoke marijuana and other things and exercises and other stuff he'd tried doing, and then she started him off on where'd he go? I think it was oxycodone and Dilaudid. And the first, I don't know what morphine milligrams are in comparison to like normal milligrams of things, but the first thing that she started him on was equal to 93. Oh, it was 30 milligrams of oxycodone and 12 milligrams of Dilaudid, and I guess that equals 93 morphine milligrams. And the first time that a daily dose that made it manageable for him was 173 morphine milligrams. And he said it felt like creamer diluting bitter black coffee. And he still made his trucking routes and cared for his partner Tyra, who has advanced multiple sclerosis, and his optimism returned. He didn't worry when his tolerance grew and the pain resurged, and he was brought up to 436 morphine milligrams. Or when Tyra, who had always refused opiates herself, got angry at Wedvick for prescribing him so much. Or when years after that first prescription, he was ultimately swallowing 584 morphine milligrams a day, more than 6 times the CDC recommended ceiling. And he was still driving his truck, still making money. He wasn't a loser, not yet. And then he said he'd been making this monthly drive since last June, starting weeks after he said a medical examiner noticed his extraordinary opioid use and declined to renew his commercial driver's license. So, and that's when they ended up losing their house, and they only had $33,000 left on their house payments to make, but they were never going to make it because he was driving truck that caused him to have his hip replaced. The doctor screwed it up, and now he can't drive. So
he had this house in the Lakewood area, in Tacoma Lakewood. If he only owed $33,000, he could have sold it for $100,000 in a heart. You can't buy
they talked
on
right
19th Avenue for cheap.
They talked about getting off the pills, but what about the pains? So they sold the house for $290,000, immediately losing 1/3 of that to closing costs, the bank, and their move to the trailer, where a relative lets them live free, and where they'd soon be trapped if he continued spending what little they had left on this drive. I'm still confused as to why he did move that far away. If they had, or I don't know, maybe he didn't qualify for retirement because he is only 49 or 59. So
I think
he's
he
not
lost
that old.
Well, he probably had too much money in the bank to get Medicaid.
So he probably moved to that tiny place at that relative's trailer, so that way that he at least had something.
Yeah.
But if it was costing him hundreds of dollars a month to drive over, why go? Just put your money into rent and save the wear and tear on your body.
I
mean, that would be my,
I think we need to reread the article.
Anyway,
it's a long article. Yeah, we need to read it.
He did what he did for good reasons, and that I'm sure that we're not privy to. But anyway, it sounds like he's got a tough row to hoe right about now. And I hope that, he at least gets some kratom because it sounded like he was going to go cold turkey
Yeah, sure did.
or try to taper himself in 1 month.
Oh yeah, he has until
That's
July to
not going to
find.
work.
Apparently, he's been looking for a new pain clinic for over a year, and apparently, the doctor that's prescribing his medications now is going to stop being a pain clinic in July.
Right.
Or it says that because it talks about how he had signed a clause like all people do, saying that he agrees not to mix his medication with alcohol, submit to pill counts and different things like that, and that he's been looking for a new pain manager closer to him and he can't find anyone. And so he said, well, if he had a beer, it would help with the pain, not to get drunk, but to help with the pain up for the drive. And so he called the clinic. He says he called the clinic and listened to the message saying we are no longer accepting any pain management referrals, and the receptionist picked up. How do I put this? He said. Am I going to get pee tested tomorrow? He gripped the wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. I want to have a beer, he said. I need something. He heard her saying, I'm sorry. She couldn't answer his question. He said, you know me, he pleaded, laughing nervously. If I had a beer... Have you found another pain clinic yet? The receptionist, Jennifer Perkins, asked. He hadn't. A year of searching, and he hadn't. Because, in July, she's not going to be doing this anymore, she said. I know, he said, looking at the traffic, cars pressing in from every direction. Believe me, I know. So, yeah, he's going to have to find a new clinic in July.
Yeah.
And, oh, yeah.
Well, that's one of the unintended consequences when they decrease your stable dose of medication, you resort to self-medicating, and then the self-medicating leads to other consequences, and it's just like a domino effect.
Yeah, and this is a pain clinic in Lakewood where he's going. It says 21 miles away, the receptionist walked over to Eileen Wedvick's office and told her that Kenyon Stewart had just called. He was thinking about drinking a beer. It sounded as if he was coming apart. It was a call that had become more familiar as Wedvick tapered 325 pain patients, some by 50%, others by 90%, to bring them within the CDC guidelines. When she'd first told Stewart and the others that she was leaving pain management, they had seemed to understand. Providers had gone to prison, lost their licenses, faced lawsuits. She already had received 2 complaints of excessive prescribing, both from insurance providers. The state had substantiated neither, but she couldn't deal with the stress of it anymore. So come June, she'd explained, she'd write the patients 3 final prescriptions, and then they would be on their own. It was months later now, and the effects of the taper had set in, and not a single patient had found another doctor to take over their opioid regimens. Budvig said they no longer seemed to understand. Stewart's prescriptions already had been cut by 276 morphine milligrams, and others were struggling to walk, including one woman hobbling into her office, shoulders hunched. Maggie Ragars, 57, sat down, grimacing in pain from a work injury that had herniated 5 discs in her spine. She said, I've had a really bad month. I'm just so angry. You want to talk about pain? Please kill me. So, yeah, it's a really long, it's a good read, but it's really, it's sad. There's all these people in like severe, insane pain. So.
And the country's full of Kenyan Stewarts.
Yeah.
There's just every day we run across somebody that's, Laura, we live about 20 miles from Lakewood. That's kind of
Wow.
Yeah. Well, here down at the end, what's really sad is someone in her office, because I scroll down past the article where it says he jokingly asked her if he was going to get to pee for the test, and she told him that he wouldn't have to, and he breathed in sharply and deeply. He walked unsteadily toward Wedvick's office, where she was seeing off a short-haired woman who looked as though she'd been crying and who would attempt suicide a week later. So yeah.
Yep. Well, on that cheery note, but it is a good story because it's the futility of it, the helplessness, and there's nothing nothing anybody can do about it on a personal, level. That this guy is just has this to face, and hopefully at least help him taper off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really sad.
Seems like I read on somewhere that someone was considering taking over Dr. Tennant's practice. Forgot
Oh,
where I read that.
yes.
I don't know who it is.
Yes, you did
but I
read
mean,
that. There
that's
is
it.
somebody coming in to do that. I think it's a woman.
Yeah, that's wow.
This person was
Dr.
very
Tennant.
brave to do it. It's very brave to do that.
Yes, Dr. Tennant is in Southern California, and he has taken on a lot of high-level patients, high amount of opioids, and the government's gone after him. I mean, they have just made his life miserable, and he and his wife were, 70-ish, and I think over 70-ish,
I think he's
and
78.
this is where life should be like for them. But anyway, apparently someone has got the kahunas, the kahunas. Anyway, to go after, to follow, take his practice, because these are desperate. They're like this, Kenyan Stewart. They're all like that.
Yeah, so it's just
So
it's really sad. But let's see. There was another story I was looking for. That was like a little bit like a happier story. Because we are coming up on the 2 hour minute, because we've been streaming for over 2 hours, but we had all those crazy tech issues figuring out how to get y'all in hangouts.
Well, Laura and I are kicked back. We're we're comfy where we're at.
Yeah, I kicked back and I put the phone down.
Yeah, because your screen is blank.
Yeah, I laid the phone down a long time ago.
Oh, were you holding it up there?
I was holding it when we first started, and then I didn't like the picture I saw on your screen. I said, no, I don't like that view of me. I tried to adjust the phone, and finally I just laid the phone down.
Oh, you can't hold the phone up there for that long.
I'm real camera shy. I hate having pictures taken, and so I avoid the camera like a plague.
Well, see, I leave my doxes. Basically, that's something that goes around this community is people talk about doxing other people, like personal information, their emails and stuff like that. And I worry because I live in a tiny town, and I don't want my kids to get affected, because I normally do a stream on Wednesdays that's a lot more crass humor, sarcasm. It's a good hoot, but there's a lot of things. I have a lot of trolls that show up in the chat, and they're good trolls. They like to say things to get reaction from people, and every Wednesday we have a good time for 2 hours where we just goof off and bring up weird stories like Florida man stories about these guys that do really insane, crazy things and make us feel better about our lives. So, but I try to keep myself, because I give my opinion whether people want it or not sometimes, and that can cause some backlash. And then when I decide that I'm not going to pick sides in a feud, that can cause backlash as well. So, and there's some clowns circling around Discords that like to get people's doxes out there. So it's like, nope. Although Mark, my husband, and I are going to end up doxing ourselves. He did a partial dox on Periscope where he showed himself on stream doing the mixing at the radio station. So. But here,
I doxed myself from the get-go, because I found out after the fact. I was trying to change my Twitter name, but I couldn't change the @ whatever part of it. When I changed my call sign, I tried to change that, but then I realized I couldn't change the @ Laura Polk thing. Yep. And I said, well, I don't have anything to hide. I'm an open book. If you ask me, I'll tell you. I'm not automatically going to I'm not going to volunteer all the information, but if you ask me, I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you and tell you. You know?
I'm the same way, and it's like honestly, in person or on streams or anywhere else I go, I'm just me all the way through. You won't find me faking being a friend to someone or faking playing nice. There are times where I just won't start shit. I'll just be like, all right, I may not like you, but other people like you, or I like you and other people don't like you, so I'm just gonna sit over here. But if somebody goes off and does something really stupid or mouthy, I'm be like, hold on a minute, hold on, and I'll give my 2 cents and then walk away. So it used to get a lot worse when I used to drink on streams because then I couldn't keep my mouth shut to save my life. So.
Oh, heaven forbid.
No, you don't understand, Mom. I rap battled myself one night in Discord. Okay. It's I don't know if you've ever seen a rap battle, but it's where two people that actually have skills and know how to rhyme will like sit there and battle each other. I rap battled myself drunk one night. So this is when we decided Red needs to stick with kratom and not alcohol. So we're good. So, but I don't want my opinions to affect my kids because I embarrass my kids in public enough as it is.
Speaking of which, they have just behaved beautifully. They're watching a little movie. They're watching a little movie and they're curled up under a blanket because it's cold here today.
It's a little chilly. Yeah, this house has held heat because we're about 100 or so feet away from each other on the same property in two different houses. So, but usually my kids don't get to listen to my streams because I'll use off-color language, say some not so nice words. And I have a lot of different things that pop up on my streams. So they're not allowed to watch my streams usually.
Yeah, they're welcome down here, especially if Open knows they're coming. He's not crazy about it. He knows it's Sunday.
It's 96 degrees outside today here in Houston. 96.
Jeez.
I was born in Fort Hood. What's funny is several years ago we went to a family reunion down in Decatur, Alabama, and it was when my husband and I was pregnant with our 10-year-old, and I got on the phone with family. I hadn't seen this family in like 25 years, right? And when we moved up here in '84, my dad tried really hard because I used to have like this really, really thick accent. And even on a military base, I was still an outcast. Apparently my accent got me picked on a lot. So my dad worked really hard on me not having my accent anymore. But as soon as I got on the phone with my family members and we were just sitting there talking, all of a sudden the drawl started coming out. And it got to the point where my husband could tell who I was on the phone with by how I was sounding on the phone. It was just... So, it gets bad. But it was 82 here in Washington yesterday. It's not too bad.
No, it's glorious here, other than the fact that it's only 70 degrees and, this little house in the middle of all of his big trees doesn't get, too much sun. So, it being on the cool side. And I have air filter running, so there's a draft breeze in here. I'm sure the world is interested in hearing that. But anyway, I keep the air clean for my grandchildren.
We have folks in our chat. We've had people since the beginning popping in to see what's going on. We've had Melly S. We've had John Plett. We've had the Malevolent Writer. Waifu Hunter popped in to say, hey, he's usually my co-host on Wednesday streams. And we had Jewish Redneck Preppers, and we had Falcon Kami, the Irate Prostate. He's my buddy down in Alabama. Then we got Death Harukin, and
so these are your friends
and Goatman.
So how many pain patients chimed in?
We had a few, we have Goatman, who gave us his story. He says, I had a work-related accident in 2003 from time to time. The nerve on my neck and along the left shoulder causes a lot of pain in my ears, headaches, and down to my feet. And then we had Melly earlier who was telling me, I didn't want to interrupt you guys, but we had Melly. She says that she got her blood draw for her thyroid. Got to see what comes of that with meds interacting or whatever, meds for anxiety, arthritis in back, and epilepsy. It's going to be tough. But yeah, she was. She
You know,
goes through a lot of pain issues and kidney stones.
As far as I'm concerned, you can pop in with those. You know, that way it's kind of inclusive, and you know that's how you gain listeners.
And we've got another clone. So, and the chat Goatman pops up because I was yeah, his name in chat is another clone. I call everybody a him until they correct me. So everybody's always a him. But yeah, let's see. We've got when we were talking about the kids and me embarrassing the children, Thrax was telling me, he's like, yeah, aren't you supposed to tease them and embarrass them? And Goatman said someday he should walk his 10-year-old to school wearing a pointy tinfoil hat.
Oh boy.
I saw a picture posted yesterday, and somebody had a tinfoil hat on their golden retriever.
Oh, Thrax is a chronic pain patient as well. He was born with stenosis of the spine, so he constantly has lower back pain. So, Death tells us that whenever he has a kid, he's going into school on the first day with them dressed as an Athelian ranger. In the eyes of a child, anything can be a weapon, like this weapon.
Has anybody heard from Debbie Hack or Heck, the doctor? I miss her.
Well, I've run across her comment, and I've commented to her. And, I don't know. I guess she just wanted to spend her time making, posting her opinions and thoughts and stuff. I don't know what, if anything happened. I don't think anything happened. I just think she outgrew us.
I think I got overwhelmed with all the chatter, in the chat room.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do, ladies, if you don't mind. If you want me to, I can show you how to turn the camera off so people can only see, like, an avatar or something if you want. But I was going to...
I don't even know how to add the avatar. I changed my avatar on my Gmail, on my Google account. It's like a little statue of a stork. But, I mean, when I logged in when you were live streaming on the other thing, I forgot on YouTube, I show up as Laura A. Polk, but there's no avatar. And I don't know how to change that.
I'll go through with you and show you how to do that if you want later. But all I do on here is to keep my camera from turning on and docks in my mug. I just click the camera button.
Yeah, I
and
really
Laura,
don't know.
You can have another account, other name that is not associated with, your real name.
Oh, so I can create another Twitter account?
Yeah, like I created a new Twitter account because the first Twitter I had was years ago, and I automatically just put my name in there. And I was like, wait a minute, with some of the stuff I do,
you can dox yourself anyway if they associate it with your Gmail. I mean, I really don't understand all the technology. I mean, I'm not trying to hide anything, but I really don't want anyone stalking me or anything because of my Gmail.
There's some people out here that is their purpose in life, is they're so miserable and just their lives suck that they seek out to destroy other people's lives.
Right. I'll insta-block people like that. I don't have time for that.
Well, see, you're smart. See, most people will like engage in Twitter battles or something or give them the attention. If you don't feed the trolls...
Right, exactly. Don't come there.
But I threw the Hangout links into the chat, so I got to keep my eyes open over here on the Hangouts. We've got like 2 screens open. But I put the Hangouts links in the chat, so if anybody wants to join us and have a chat here for the last few minutes. So,
Laura, that when you open another account, you will have no contacts, no followers. I mean, you are just fresh as a newborn baby. So you got to kind of rebuild a little bit, find your, let somebody know what your new name is to let you into the chat rooms. Otherwise, you're
well, I'll post it on this chat line what my other handle is.
Yeah.
And so because I mean, the more followers you get, I mean, the more trolls you get. I mean, if you comment on somebody else's comment, then people chime in, want to attack you. It's like, no, I just, and so I don't, and for the longest time, I didn't even realize, I didn't know if I was commenting on someone's post. I mean, I'd retweet it and I didn't know how to read it. It's really confusing, but I'm catching on. So I think what I'm trying to say is getting attached to other people's tweets. You know, I'm still not
Right.
sure. I'm still not sure, but it's a learning process, that's for sure.
Right. You're just included. But I haven't had any problems, and I'll go out. I'm pretty vocal, not in the pain stuff, because I think there's no room for it.
There's no room for that.
You know,
Okay.
that doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make any difference what you believe, when it comes to that. Anyway, no one has given me a hard time about anything except these two women who challenged me on a percent of ODs or whatever for CPP. You know, and they're our own people, but they were just so bitchy. It's like, my God, this is,
Yeah.
I mean, I got six tweets from each of them in an hour. Yeah. Where's your research? Where are you quoting this from? We want it now. Whoa.
Well, I don't know. Do you follow Thomas Wichter on Twitter?
I don't think so.
He's like the king of the Insta block. He doesn't have time I mean, he's a very educated author, and he tweets constantly about what's going on in the Middle East and what the rationale is for why they're doing certain things. And he's an expert on weapons, and he's expert on warfare over there. And I've learned so much from following Thomas Wichter. But I mean, he doesn't have time for that. He will insta block. So, sometimes I really don't even want to comment on his tweets because I don't want to get blocked from him because I've learned so much from him. So I just I lurk and read his posts, and I like a lot of his posts. But I mean, he's fascinating, brilliant.
Without tone or inflection or facial stuff, body language, you could write something totally benign, vanilla. I mean, and it could be totally misread. So you never know. So, it's like me and Larry. I worry about how he takes things sometimes. That I try to be, really careful because, he's pretty outspoken. He'll tell you what he thinks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I put the hangout in the Pain DMs too. If people want to join the chat and just tell their stories or whatnot, but
yeah. Are you
so
do
we
this
may
on a
see
regular
somebody
basis?
pop in.
You're going to be doing the pain live stream on a regular basis, or
I can manage to do it about once a month now.
Okay.
And I can because I do my normal streams once a week, and with the last end of the year, my oldest is graduating. She's the one I put a picture of on Twitter that said Cinderella's off to the ball. And thanks for the help with picking the dresses. That Say Yes to the Dress live version on Twitter was pretty fun.
Yes to the dress.
Do you have any post ball pictures or any of them?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of them. Last night was the prom, and I let her stay at a friend's house and have some fun. So, and she's the one I could. She'll
so
tell
it's on
me,
Twitter.
Yes, and she's my daughter basically. I mean, she's me in a mini version, but she's a lot braver than I was at her age because I was so worried about hurting other people's feelings. Anybody that's here in the chat are gonna call bullshit on that here in a minute, because I used to really worry about hurting people's feelings, and if being a serious introvert. She's not. I've helped enable her to give her opinion.
Where did you post the pictures?
I just posted the picture in just regularly on Twitter last night. But I have a bunch on my phone, and I'll post them in the DMs. When I pull them off my phone, I'm on my computer right now, so I can't get them. But she's the one that
put a couple on there.
Yeah, because she's still a virgin.
Did either one of y'all
Anytime
ever
she's-
join that Facebook Kratom group that I posted the link?
I created a new Facebook account just for that, but I wanted to make sure I knew how to spell your name properly because I haven't friended anybody on there because Facebook is cancer. It's a kind of cancer I can't handle most of the time. So, but I created a new
totally dropped
Facebook.
out of Facebook. I think I posted somebody else's hilarious tweet or Facebook post today. It was absolutely hilarious. But I mean, I hadn't posted on Facebook in a couple of months. You know, I just dropped out of Facebook. I guess it was after I watched Mark Zuckerberg testify. That's when I said, no. The only reason I kept Facebook was because of the pictures that I don't have access to anymore. They're on my Facebook page. And I didn't want to lose those. So I didn't delete my account.
Well, see, my
But other
Facebook
than
account
that,
was originally to contact, I hadn't seen my family in 25 years from down in the South. My dad and mom moved up here and ostracized everybody, and, back in the days of where it was phone calls and snail mail. And so then after 25 years, I found him again. And so I started doing Facebook. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. But then everybody started getting butthurt because, oh, you're not liking my post. Why won't you poke me back? Why didn't you do this? It's Facebook. It's supposed to be when you have time for. You should not be having panic attacks because you didn't follow this person's post and you didn't comment on that person's post. And at one point we used it for promotional because Merck used to do nightclubs. And I was the super social person. He's the one that had the skills to put everything together. So I had hundreds of people I didn't even know, but they were professional connections. And so it's just, there are some horrific things on my Facebook. And I've got a super duper religious family down there in the Bible Belt. There's most people in the family are in the service of God in one way or another at revivals and whatnot. So anything they see on mine, they're like, that's not very Christian, Red. I'm like, I know, but it's got all my family pictures and all this other stuff I don't want to lose. And then here a few months ago, I realized that people were actively trying to find other people's Facebook accounts. I was like, I am definitely not using Facebook now. I'm locking that thing down. I'm locking it down to where people that aren't already my friends can't see things. But it became a dangerous place. So, like I said, I created a new Facebook so that way I can link up with other people about pain and get active in this because my pain is managed. You know, I have flare-ups to where I get severe migraines. I've been fighting a migraine for almost 2 weeks now, where I'll get tolerable. I still have the headache. It doesn't blossom into a migraine, but then for a couple days it'll blossom into that migraine and can't do squat. And I can't do that right now. It's the end of the year, graduation, all that. I don't have time for migraines. But,
I when I got into ketogenic diet, I did a lot of, I found a lot of links, and a lot of people are having success with migraines with the ketogenic diet. And I'll send a link to you with that article about, I don't know where you stand on trying a dietary approach to it, but a lot of people that are resistant to all kinds of medications, they're desperate. And so they found relief with ketogenic diet. So, and also, I don't know if anybody's heard of Jason Fung, MD. He's a nephrologist, and he's like the pioneer of reversing diabetes and pre-diabetes with a ketogenic diet and fasting. And the reason he got so interested in it because he's in Canada, but all the patients that would come see him have late stage kidney disease, plus they're diabetic. And so he started getting into it, and he's been really, really successful with reversing diabetes. I mean, people are on, 200 units of insulin and 3 oral hypoglycemic agents when they come in, and they're overweight, and they change to their diet, and they cut their carbs, and they do fasting in between, and they're able to get off all their medications within a couple of months. It's like the dietary guidelines for the Diabetes Association are screwed up. There's too many carbs involved, and the food pyramid for America, it's been wrong for 40 years, and you wonder why everyone's getting overweight and turning diabetic, and it's because of the carbohydrate. And so I follow a lot of people on Twitter, and I'm in a few Facebook groups, but I mean, Jason Fung, MD, he's revolutionizing diabetes care. He has a program called Intensive Dietary Management online that you can consult with him if you want to get off your diabetes meds or if you want to lose weight. He has 3 books out. He's got one called The Obesity Code, one called The Complete Guide to Fasting, and his newest one came out in March. It's called The Diabetes Code. But I mean, he is turning diabetes around. He's been doing it about 7 years now. But yeah, I'm amazed at the work he's doing.
Yeah. So yeah, Goatman says I only had one migraine, but holy moly, was it bad? I was like, yeah, migraines. I would rather go through childbirth once a year than have to deal with migraines. I mean, honestly.
I used to get them. I used to get them.
Almost killed me.
Before I had my neck fused, I would get them so bad. I mean, I was on a medication called Belergal S, which is like a 3-drug combo. It's got like ergotamine, belladonna, and phenobarbital. And that got rid of my headaches. It got rid of my sweats. But looking back on it, it was the arachnoiditis that was causing the headaches, you know. But that helped for a long time. But then finally I got off that medication. And then my headaches came back, and I was on Midrin. I was on lidocaine nasal spray. But after I had my neck fused, the migraines went away. So I'm pretty sure the migraines were related to something that was going on in my neck.
Well, I'm sure it is. I've had, like I said, I've had 2 traumatic brain injuries. It's like there's a reason my name is not Grace. I mean,
Grace.
I'm not very graceful, and
yeah.
you know, I always joke that's like I'm kind of like my dad is. I'm 5'6". I'm not like hugely tall, but I'm not like midget short. But there's no way somebody's gonna knock me over unless I'm like completely unprepared, because it's just I'm not going to get knocked over. But I push myself so hard as a tomboy, and I've worked construction jobs. I've worked as a civilian on the battlefield for the military, where I basically got to be a terrorist professionally. And that was a fun job. I loved that job. But I've done so many physical jobs, and I wasn't afraid of pain. I'm like, I'm young. I can bounce back. I'll be fine. And after I hit my 30s, I realized I'm like, yeah, I'm not so young anymore. My body doesn't heal that way anymore because I'm 38 now. And so, but the first accident I had that was really bad was after my 10-year-old was born. I tore my thoracic spinal area, the muscle there, and just did the typical, little bit of medicine, a little bit of physical therapy, get better. And then I got hit by a semi-truck while I was pregnant with my 6-year-old. And it did that little, like, nice little whiplash thing of hitting the steering wheel and all that, and had chronic migraines, like, just from there on out. They just, like, stayed. So, but, so I ended up with that, with the memory issues that I was off of all my anxiety medications. I wasn't on any kind of medications for anything. I learned how to handle myself with my depression, anxiety, everything. But getting that traumatic brain injury, it snaps it right back, and you're back to square one again, learning how to cope. And I had really bad doctors. So for the first like year and a half after the accident, they didn't refer me to any orthos or anything. And so my body just basically tried to heal on its own. And then I leaned up against a guardrail during a migraine attack, and they put me on an anti-seizure medicine as a preventative for migraines. And it made me so dizzy. I leaned on this guardrail, and it gave way, and I fell about 6.5 feet down to the ground and whacked my head on the ground twice. So, and then since then they had to do like surgeries on my wrist to rebuild my wrist, my shoulder, and now they're talking about trying to do some stuff with my neck. But I was like, what, you go under knife for that? You don't want to go into the knife for your back, from what I've learned from my dad, because he had 3 vertebrae fused together, and he's like, I would have rather do physical therapy and everything else until the last moment before having his vertebrae or anything dealt with. So we'll just see. I didn't
mention that after I'd had 3 back surgeries and I'd already had my neck and my shoulder redone, I got hit by a drunk driver. He was driving a van. He was going over 100 miles an hour on the freeway when he hit me. I was going about 55 or so, but he rear-ended me on the freeway. That was after I'd already had all my major surgeries, and that's what disabled me. And I'm sure that aggravated my arachnoiditis, but I didn't require that surgery for that incident until like 3 years after the accident. And that's when I had the major arachnoiditis and that required surgery. So, but I forgot to tell y'all that part. So I've been hit and by two drunk drivers. And God, I used to work in the ER and we take care of all these drunk drivers and see all the carnage. I kind of went full circle with the drunk driver situation.
So arachnoiditis sounds like a sick spider. Arachnoid.
You've got inflamed spiders in your body.
Yeah, you have 3 layers that cover your spinal cord and your brain. One's called the dura mater, one's called the pia mater, and the other one's called the arachnoid and membrane. And you have that around your spinal cord too, but that gets inflamed. It can be either from like a herniated disc or from trauma or from both. But you start making scar tissue. And then the scar tissue sticks together and it adheres to your arachnoid membrane. And so, but I mean, I had a tremendous amount of scar tissue when I had my fusion back in '96. I mean, the doctor wrote in the operative report that there was evidence of a horrible problem, and he had removed 2 to 3 inches of scar tissue around my nerve roots. Wow. And he cut my dura when he was trying to remove all this scar tissue. And if you cut the dura, your cerebrospinal fluid can leak out. I mean, it can cause you to herniate your brain, which is it's a severe consequence. So, I mean, he fixed the dural tear right quick. And, but I mean, he wrote back in '96 that I had evidence of a horrible problem, but he never said that I had arachnoiditis. He called it cicatrix, which is a medical term for scar tissue. So, trying to put all the pieces together, I really have no clue as to when I was really diagnosed with the arachnoiditis. Oh, wow. I mean, there was because with arachnoiditis, it has to show up on an MRI for them to diagnose you. And it showed up in 2005 when I had to have surgery for it. But then I noticed on my super bill from my pain doctor, I said, arachnoiditis. And then so I went back to the billing office and said, how long have y'all been billing Medicare for this diagnosis of arachnoiditis? And it preceded my surgery by 18 months. Oh, but I mean, I don't have all my old super bills, so I really don't know when I got that diagnosis.
That's great. It's I know somebody that apparently they were exposed to MRSA and had to be treated for it, and they didn't even know about it until like 2 years after it had been apparently diagnosed by the doctor. They were in the hospital for some follow-up surgeries, and they saw these little initials MRSA on their chart, and they're like, "What is that?" And like, "Oh, you had MRSA, blah blah blah." Well,
methicillin-resistant Staph aureus. It's the bad staph.
Yeah. Well, see, she didn't even know she had it. It's no doctor ever told her she had it or anything, and she'd gone through surgeries and different things.
I had it back in '07, and I had like a zit on my face, and I had picked the zit, and then all of a sudden my face started swelling and getting red, and my face right underneath my eye got so swollen and so painful and so red. I went to the ER. And I said, I think I've got cellulitis of the face. And they said, I think you're right. So, I mean, they admitted me in the hospital and they did a CAT scan of my face. And I had like an abscess in my sinus right underneath my eye that was like the size of a ping pong ball. And so the way they diagnosed it, I had to put all these hot packs on there to get it. It was like a boil on my face, but it hadn't come to a head. But, I didn't want them to lance it because it was my face, but they cultured it. It finally started draining, and they cultured the drainage, and it came back with MRSA. So I was in there for IV vancomycin, and then they treated my nose with some nasal Bactroban, which is it eradicates the MRSA. And then, so I was in there for 5 days with IV vancomycin, and then they sent me home with a real expensive oral agent. It was like $1,100 was my copay for 10 days supply of this medicine called Zyvox. But I didn't want the MRSA to go to my brain because that it's in your sinus. That's the next place for it to go is in your brain. So yeah, it's rampant. It's everywhere out there. But
it's everywhere.
If you get run down for some reason, you can. But I mean, the only way to really know if you have it, they need to culture your nose. They can culture the wound, but the only way to eradicate it is to treat you nasally. And a lot of places don't even treat you nasally. But I mean, if we get a patient from like a nursing home or a long-term care facility, it was routine in ICU to do nose cultures to make sure they weren't carriers, because a lot of people carry it and don't even know they carry it.
Yeah.
I've got it.
I
had when I had all of my surgeries and everything. You know, everybody puts on a yellow gown and a mask, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. But I think it's just everywhere that it's on every piece of furniture. It's in every piece of money.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better if
So
you have an
just
open wound. I mean, because then you don't wash your hands, and you know, I'm sure the incidents right around when Harvey was flooding everywhere. I'm sure MRSA and all kinds of stuff people were getting because of all the standing water and
oh yeah.
probably getting open wounds from being out, you know, in the flood waters and whatnot. But,
Oh God, yeah.
yeah, we saw a lot of it at the hospital.
Oh, Mom, I had kind of told him your story about you not knowing you got diagnosed with it without telling him it was you. And how, like, you saw that on your chart.
Oh, yeah. Surprise. But I will never tell anybody that again
Well,
because I have volunteered that.
they
I
treat
won't
you
do
like
it
you're a
again.
leper. They treat you like a leper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
No,
it's
won't
just.
do it again.
What's crazy is I was pregnant with my 10-year-old when she found out about it. I'd been coming to visit her in the hospital, and she didn't know she had it or anything. It's like, dude, come in there. You're pregnant with. I'm pregnant, and she's got this person. She didn't even know she had it. It's like, great. I could have exposed a baby because the doctor didn't think to tell her.
Yeah, but most people have already been exposed to it, but your immune system kicks in and fights it off. It's the people that are immunocompromised, or they have a bad diet, or they're stressed out. Those are the people that wind up getting it.
Well, she'd had so many surgeries
They
because of
have
her surgery that failed. But
I think
no.
I got it. I was extremely stressed out after my dad died, and I wasn't eating well. And I'm pretty sure I was run down because of my dad dying, and I'm pretty sure that's why I got it.
But yeah, that's you guys talking about that that digestion thing or whatever. Is my pharmacist is trying to get me to get in there and talk to my doctor because there's something I've been dealing with since I was 16. Is like just having like gut pressure and pain. Every once in a while they thought it was my gallbladder. Eventually my gallbladder did go out, but apparently I'm not producing enough digestive enzymes and something about immunodeficiency some sort that basically you don't. Ever since I was younger, I never eat much, and even when I didn't eat much, I still gained weight. And it's because like your pancreas and other areas aren't secreting enough of these enzymes, like I said, and it's a simple just prescription that's like, okay, here, we're going to help you digest now. And a lot of people have been having more success with losing weight, keeping weight off, and actually being able to eat, because when you don't want to eat, you end up eating the stuff that's high in sugars, high in fats, high in salts, you know, things that aren't that great for you. And then even when you eat fruit, you want to eat things like bananas instead of apples that have fiber that can actually help you, you know.
Well, actually, the best fruit if you're trying to lose weight is to stick to berries, because all the fruits are so high on the glycemic index, and they're loaded with carbs, and it's the carbs that make you not lose weight. The carbs, if you have a lot of carbs in your system, they make you retain fluid too. So, I mean, once you cut the carbs, you'll have this diaphoresis effect. You'll pee like a racehorse and get rid of all the extra fluid that your body's hanging on to. So that's what happened with me. I was just amazed at how many carbs I was consuming in my diet without even realizing it. I mean, I thought I knew a little something. Well, bread, potatoes, rice, everything that's processed. I mean, if you shop in the middle aisles at the at the store, chances are it's loaded with carbs. So, I mean, they suggest that you shop on the periphery of the store where the meat is and the produce and the butter and sour cream and the full fat salad dressing, and not shopping on in the aisles where all the processed food is.
Yeah.
So I was just amazed at how easy it was. Because, I mean, I don't exercise at all. And in a 2-month period, I lost 40 pounds. And I wasn't even trying. I was just being aware of the carbs I was consuming and trying to keep it under 20 grams a day. But I mean, some days I'd eat more, but you know, it blows me away how easy it was.
Althrax points over here because he was eating to die basically many years ago. He's 29. Our youngest here in the crowd is 21, but we have a wide gambit of viewers here. But
I don't know.
let's see. Oh wait, no. Oh, I guess. Oh yeah, Thorax says he thinks he's usually the youngest, but he says that well, considering when I got really depressed back in '91 or in '09, I was eating to die. Yeah, I screwed myself over, have myself a complex, and I'm only recently digging myself back, but I'm working on it. And then he says he did drop 90 pounds within the last year. So I mean, 90 pounds in a year, that's freaking amazing. That's really good. And it also that's another thing I want to focus on later on in this series I'm going to do is when people are in pain, there's also the mental health aspect, and then there's the weight aspect and different things. Is that people become depressed? There's a cycle of pain. Is like the emotional, the mental, and then people can even just start out with just having emotional pain, and then that turns into like horrible eating habits, horrible exercising habits, and then that turns into a physical complication, and then that becomes pain. And
pain is a disease process in of itself. You have the physical pain, you have the spiritual pain, you have the depression, you have the financial aspects, you have the vocational aspects. I mean, it's just a whole spectrum when you sit down and think about it. One book that kind of turned me around is written by a person named Caudill, Caudill. A person's a PhD, and it's called Managing Pain Before It Manages You. It's a really good book. It's a really good book. I found out of it a long time ago. I read it. I don't have it anymore, but I think it's still available. But it's Managing Pain Before It Manages You.
Yep.
That is a good line of thought to do, though, is like, manage it before it manages you. And then there's stigmas that get put on people, about, oh, you're a person in pain. Oh, you just want drugs. So it's, then when people go to look for help of, wait, no, I just want to figure out how to get out of this pain. And because there is the stigma of people in pain, then they don't look for the help. And then it gets worse to the point where a lot of it's irreversible because, well, they just kept on keeping on self-medicating, self-doing things, and rather than actually getting
and then
help.
it affects your relationships with your family members and your relationships with your friends. Because, I mean, your friends stop wanting to be around you because all you're doing is bitching about your pain, or you're bitching about how broke you are going to have all these damn procedures done. And so your friends drop by the wayside, and your family, drops out. And I mean, it's totally isolating disease process. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
So I didn't have
I'm lucky to have a supporting family. Yeah.
If I didn't have my spiritual background, I probably would have ended it a long time ago, but I just don't even think that way. And if I get in a really, really low place, I mean, something or somebody says or does, it can be a random person. It will make me reconnect with my spiritual aspect and realize that God's been carrying me along all this time. And I think I'm all alone. I'm really not. So even though I'm not really close with my family anymore, I just have a brother and sister back, but I've lost so many friends, and I mean, I lost my career and lost my mind kind of, but
Yeah.
I haven't lost hope. I mean, I've been feeling hopeless, but I mean, I haven't given up. And I think I'm on the upswing again. I really know I am. So I'm so glad that I found y'all. I'm so glad you found me, Liz. Really am.
I'm so glad I found you. I'm so glad you found me.
It's the Finders crew.
And I'm glad you found Raoul. He's
I'm
somebody.
glad you're glad.
Yeah, he's somebody who's got something to say and who I think appreciates. And you know who else is Jason? Jason.
Absolutely, yes, I agree with you.
A neat young man.
I'm finding more and more every day. I mean, sometimes, I mean, I don't follow everybody. I mean, some of the people, I don't get all their tweets, but every now and then I'll get a notification or something, and I'll scroll back and read their tweets or their comments, and then I'll go to their page and I'll start following them, and then the next thing you know, I'm pushing a little button to get notifications for all their tweets. So I mean, slowly but surely, I'm my network of paying patients is getting bigger and bigger. So.
I typed that wrong.
Yep.
Now we've got privileged white male in the chat. He's a good guy. Thrax brings up something. He says that the weight and the depression and emotions, it's become a cycle. And he's his hardest critic. He's been called fat all his life, and they could never hurt me as much as I hurt myself. And then there's the days that I just don't feel like moving. So, you know, it's, you know, it helps to get around other people that, you know, will actually, like, try to lift you up, kind of, you know, be like, hey, yeah, we can have a commiserating moment to be like, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then others that'll be like,
oh, my dad,
about suckage.
My dad used to be
this morning
go ahead.
This morning we ran across one of the gals who's going in for some lung test of some sort, and hadn't heard from her in a while. And you know, I think that we found her just at the right time today.
Yeah, I think so too, Liz.
Yeah. Before she went off by her spot, you know, that was good for her to go. You know, little TLC.
Oh yeah,
well, I could just grasping at straws, you know. She needed something.
Well, Trax might be a good person to introduce to the DMs groups. He's a really good guy. He says over here in the chat, he says, I'm an introvert, an autist. This guy, Thrax Sable Scales, he's got a little dragon for his avatar. He says, I'm an introvert, an autist, if they know what that is. An autist is basically what we call people that just, like, we call people autistic, and not in the sense that they actually have mental handicaps, unless you count Twitter and YouTube as a mental handicap. But they go and they do the quote-unquote shit posting where they, just get some goofy ideas in their heads and have a good time. He says, I'm an autist, but he does actually suffer from Asperger's, an actual form of autism. So he is actually an autistic autist. I don't communicate well with people. On top, add OCD and ADHD and social anxiety caused by the complex I gave myself.
Well, speaking of things that we gave ourselves, I have a husband who's home from the war, and he was doing something for the Lions Club all day today. Anyway, and I think he would like my attention for a while, and the girls are having some sweet potatoes, and then they're going to be headed home.
Well, it is about that time. The one thing I wanted to and Goatman says, I was a fat kid, was always verbally and physically picked on. I started to do a lot of cycling to get away from people. I got in very good shape, then bought weight equipment and pumped myself up.
Good.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, congratulations, P-Dubs. She wants to die while filled with life, lol. So, P-Dubs having a baby. So, congrats.
Who's having a baby?
Buddy over here in the chat, privileged white male. We call him P-Dubs, and his wife is NCF, the former Not Your CHB, is his wife. And CHB stands for Common Household Bitch. Sorry for the swear, but CHBs are those women that go out and get in other people's businesses. Like, you see a guy walking away from a counter, and this woman starts yelling at him, "You're a privileged white male. You're a white male." And then they try to smack the drink out of the guy's hand. Yeah, those are CHBs. If they're going to be that silly and in other people's businesses, they just need to go back home. They just need to go back home. So, there's having an opinion, and there's just being a problem starter.
You know, Red, I think if you don't wait a month to do this, it would be wise. I think that you could build up some momentum.
All right. I've got 230 subs. I'm slowly building. But I'm wondering if I should build basically because I do have a second channel. It's my avatar with an upside down head. Change the avatar for it, obviously, but have one that's like more of a serious,
Yeah.
like a more of a serious channel. Because if people that are a little bit more sensitive or more rational and respectful come along, they may not appreciate it. They may not appreciate coming across some of my channel's
you
humor.
can be whoever you want to be. One nice thing is that some of the people in our room have a lot of followers, and if you multiply it out, it could easily be 10 or 15,000 that see the post, the tweet, and you do that for a few weeks. You could blossom pretty fun, and people can, if
Well,
they want to be send you
all
a
right.
tweet or something and say that they want to tell their story, or they have some questions, or they disagree, or whatever. Because I can think of 2 or 3 people right off the top of my head.
All
Okay,
right. Well,
who
we could
want
make
to
this
do
a
it.
once a week thing, but I'm not going to schedule something definitively until we get past this graduation phase.
Yeah,
And I make sure because
that's okay.
number one,
I
daughter
understand.
hasn't done all she needs to do. She's been accepted to Central Washington University for her psychiatric program, but she hasn't even picked out her classes or anything, and I want to get that locked in before I commit to a summer schedule. But maybe towards the end of June, we could schedule something that it's like once a week, that we know we have the time on this day at this time, and have a schedule. And because this is really
Yeah,
interesting, I enjoy doing this. More like serious, actually, maybe reach people, help people, give people a place to come and like gather and like maybe get more information. So, but
yeah. And I think that the verbal, saying it out loud and hearing each other, and is a good thing. But yeah, you don't have to do it every week. You could do it, but I'm just saying though that this is a good time you know to get it off the ground, you know to do it fairly soon. Anyway, um, Opa is here, and
all right. So,
he's cleaning up after me now.
so, Mom, do you want me to put your Twitter information on in the description of the video so people can follow you if they want to talk to you and have more questions or anything?
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'll put your
Well,
Twitter info down here.
sure.
Your Twitter handle. So, but,
Okay.
so that'll work. All right. And then to hang up, all you have to do is like do the little the headphone thingy,
Yeah.
the telephone.
Yeah.
thing.
Larry is. I put a little note in our room, and I said if anybody's interested in telling your story or asking questions, that Red would like to hear from you.
Oh yeah.
And I said not everyone can be on every episode, but everyone can get their 2 cents in. So anyway, Larry, in a week or two when he has some time.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his wife's going through some stuff and he's going through some stuff too. The chat says it was
Yeah,
nice
a
meeting
couple
you.
of weeks
and
would be a good target.
let's see if we can get Oma to say "All hail blue whale." I know I can get my little girl to say it. The blue whale is the
say all hail blue whale.
Yes, all hail blue whale. So you're on your path to entanglement. You'll be fine.
Okay.
So, all right, Laura, you want to say bye? The chat appreciates both you ladies. They like both you guys. I think you guys have good information. So, but
All right.
And we're really nice people.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm so glad y'all invited me.
all right.
I'm
Well,
glad we had this time together.
you know stuff. You are just all kinds of stuff, and you're not just talking. You know it. I mean, you've learned it. It's not just opinion. It's and that's
Yeah.
perfect for discussion.
Yeah.
So you were the pre-pick. I mean, candidate.
All right, so I've got
Okay. So anyway, I'm over and out. Peace and love.
All right.
Namaste. Brotherhood, sisterhood. Y'all.
Bye, Liz.
all right, bye, Mom.
Okay. Bye bye. Talk to you in a bit. Bye bye.
In a bit, Mom. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. All right, Laura, do you care if people have your Twitter?
Well, not really, but I mean, I still have so much to learn about copying links and chats and all that. You know, I don't want people to try to be contacting me and then I have a way to respond. I mean, they can always DM me.
Okay,
I don't mind at all. I mean, I could use all the help I can get. So I mean, just someone that's a little more technological advanced, you know, that doesn't want to teach me.
Mom's still connected.
Yeah, you've been up here.
Mom, you're
all
still
day.
online.
Oh, here's.
Hold on a second. I gotta boot her from the call. Hold on. Let's see. I can't boot her. Oh, shoot, fire. Oh, well, I can't boot her from the call. Whoops. So, what I'll do here is I'm going to put Laura's Twitter information here in the description as well, if anybody wants to follow Miss Laura. But be cautious that she doesn't know, like she said, she doesn't have much technological clue of what's going on. So, that's why we were all there. I just started doing this YouTube and all that recently. I started last June. So, but yeah, like Thrax, if you see anybody that's watching this show, if you guys follow her, let her know, DM her and let her know where you know that you're from the pain chat, or you know Red. So, yes, PWs, you came in too late. I've been streaming for over 3 hours now. We had technical issues. My sound was coming from my monitor, not my headset, and all kinds of stuff. So, but yeah, I really like this, and the next time we do this, I'll have a lot more information up and have my guests concreted in. And but I really appreciate you showing up, Laura. You do have a lot of good information and a good story to tell. So if anybody wants to, they can go to the back of the stream, and Laura puts it in very good terms. Most people will hem and haw about their diagnosis, or this is what happened to them, or that's what happened to them. You know, you're very straight to the point of, this is what I went through, this is what I did, this is, you know, you're very well spoken. So, and that goes a long way. It really does.
Sometimes I can get on that soapbox about not getting my meds, and then, I mean, if you're talking to a doctor and you get on your soapbox, I mean, they don't hear what you're saying. All they can hear is this bitchathon that you're doing, and you basically shut yourself down in your hopes of getting any help. So, I mean, I try not to get on my soapbox, but I do it. I mean, I'm human, but I realize that I do it, and I try not to do it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, you know. I've learned what works and what doesn't work when you're trying to get something accomplished at a doctor's office, especially when you're limited with the amount of time that you get to spend with them in your visit in the first place. You know, you have to be concise. You don't have to go off on a tangent about how you were mistreated, because they don't want to hear that. I mean, you're there to get their help, you know, their consultation. And so
that would be something else to go through on a different stream. Is like, because I did have it queued up, but we didn't have time of how to basically advocate for yourself and communicate with your doctor and tell them, look, this is what's going on. Because honestly, nowadays, the patients know a lot more about what's going on with themselves than the doctors do, especially with rotating providers at different doctors' offices. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing I've noticed that when you're when I worked at a county hospital, I mean, the residents and the interns in the emergency room, they did their clinical rotation every 3 months. So, I mean, so it would take a while to learn the doctor's idiosyncrasies and how to work with them and to learn their names. And then the next thing you know, they change their rotation and you get a whole new set of doctors in there. So, I mean, you really have to learn how to establish a rapport with someone quickly and how to learn their idiosyncrasies and their name to be able to problem solve in a fast-paced environment like that. So
Yeah.
then you really don't have time to boggle yourself down with a bunch of drama. You know, you just kind of have to stick with the facts and what can we do, and this is how we're going to do it. I mean, you don't have time to listen to a long, drawn out scenario.
Very true. All right. Well, thank you, Laura, for coming by and having a chat with us and sharing your story with us.
Alrighty,
It's really been a lot
anytime.
of fun. Thank you, chat, for everybody who came out, even the ones that came late. So, but when we do this again, it will be on Sundays. The Devil's Advocate's supposed to be coming back. Merck had his strike lifted, but he still can't live stream for some reason. So that's why Devil's Advocates didn't happen today. So once we figure that out, we do a game show where we get a team of 4 to 6 players and we spin a wheel for pro or con side before you even know what the question is. And then we put up very touchy subjects like the 13th Amendment, gun rights, all different kinds of stuff. And it's all jokes. Nobody's serious on there. It's all straw man and hyperbole. Yeah, we're mocking all the other quote unquote great debaters. So, and it's a lot of fun. So that's supposed to be coming back. And my husband, he's got his radio show every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Chaos, the liberal radio station at Evergreen State College. So that's always fun. So, but it's just music for right now. But here soon, once he gets the approval, the head of the station has it in front of him now. He's got 2 other shows he's got to look at before ours, but it's looking good. So we will do Hump Day on Wednesday, Waifu and myself, at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we'll run another 2-hour show of goofs and gaffs. Be sure to tune in for Florida Man Stories. We have a few of those, and those are always good for a sense of humor and a good laugh and make you feel better about choices you've made in life. So, all right, well, thanks everybody for coming out. Thank you again to Laura and Liz for joining us today on the show and kicking this off. I don't know what we're going to call this show. Originally, I was going to call it Super Serial Sundays, but that may, that may not be the good name for it. But, all right, I'll catch y'all later, either on Discord or Twitter. Everybody's links are in the description. Have a great day, or at least have a day.
I walk a lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's home to me, and I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone. I walk alone, I walk alone.
Like a merry-go-round.
そんなんじゃダメもうそんなんじゃほら心は進化するよもっともっと How many shrimps do you have to eat before you make your skin turn pink? Eat too much and you'll get sick. Shrimps are pretty rich.
When worlds collide, you'll laugh so hard you'll swear you died. When worlds collide, hold my hand, I'll be your guide. When worlds collide, buckle up for the sweetest ride and prepare to have your mind blown wide. When worlds collide, when